SPL for our second set of the day. Set number one, the Atlantis Leviathans against the Tartarus Titans. Our first look at the World's Finals rematch from Season 8. Leviathans apparently back to form after a 2-0 win over the Tartarus Titans. A long week of SPL still to go. We've got one more matchup today, 3 matchups tomorrow. And Miff, the one that we've got over the horizon here, I think a lot of anticipation. The Oni Warriors thought we were on top of the world after the Leviathans win, fell pretty convincingly to the Dragons yesterday. The Valks have shown some promise. Could be a close one.
Yeah, I am really excited for that. I feel like the Oni Warriors are going to be one of my most anticipated teams to watch just because of how transient their skill is, how evanescent it seems to be in that.
You're going to use efficacy on cast.
Well, yeah.
You're going to use transient, evanescent with me.
Uh-huh.
You've been in what's been your mood the last couple days?
I'm on cruise control.
Cruise control. Apparently, a lot of that time spent cruising has been in the thesaurus for Miff. I'll let you think about what those words mean. You can define them for us here in just a little bit. A couple days of the SPL already in the books. We had some good matchups yesterday. A couple good matchups here today. Camelot King started off our week with a 2-1 win over the Scarabs, and then that matchup I was just referencing, Jade Dragons, look like they are back to form, back to expectations maybe, with a 2-0 win over the Oni Warriors. And the Leviathans, a surprising 2-0 win. Not the fact that they won, but the fact that it was as quick as it was over the Tartarus Titans. That means our final matchup of the day will be the Oni Warriors versus the Valhalla Valkyries. Two teams hoping for a little help to climb up these standings a little bit. Valks 0-1 so far in the one set that we've seen them here in the SPL drop to the Solar Scarabs, as I've mentioned. And the Oni Warriors, a chance to climb things up. And could look very different here. You go to 2-2. You know, obviously a lot of moving and shaking happens early in the phase Miff when there's not a lot of wins and losses on the board. But this Oni Warriors team, so much of the conversation around them is, okay, we're getting back on land. Now it's time to see if the standings will reflect that. But I want to talk first about this Valhalla Valkyries team, a team new to the SPL but not new to one another, has been the storyline around this squad, where they played through the SEC all of last year as this Winter Dogs team. And even in some interviews, they've mentioned how they had offers to go to different teams, they considered doing different things, and they decided that their ultimate goal was to play in the SPL together. And through the SPL qualifier tournament, they were able to make that happen. And at the forefront of a lot of that conversation, Miff, is their mid laner, Benny Q.
Yeah, I think Benny Q has got to be the standout player on this squad. He has been very consistent. His damage output has always been active. He's always rotating around the map. It's something we talked about last time we got to see him play, is just the fact that he is almost adverse to just sitting in the lane, whereas when you talk about the Pauls and the Shintos of the world, it's, hey, I'm going to hover in mid until I'm level 20, and the only place I'm going is your back camps, okay? I'm just going for farm. Benny Q has got a completely different methodology in that he is very much so inclined to rotate over towards the dual lane to put his teammates ahead, make sure he's getting active in the solo lane, and then if everybody else is ahead, he'll start worrying about himself afterward. It's reminiscent of what we saw from Hurrywin in the past, in that he is just a very selfless laner, and he has always got the best interest of his team in mind. Agreed.
Benny Q is a very exciting player to watch. This whole Valkyries team is really exciting to watch because of the story behind them and the trials and tribulations they had gone through together as an SEC squad,
That's
having to qualify into the tournament. Which one? Trials?
Tribulations.
Oh, tribulations. Squad, was that the word?
Yeah, that's good.
No, this is a team that absolutely deserves to be in the SPL, look dominant during that qualifier tournament. And, you know, the expectation is that the first phase, maybe the first couple of phases of this year, would bring about some growing pains for this team. It is a big shift going from SEC play to SPL and all of the prep that goes into SPL and playing here in studio. I mean, lots of differences. So we assumed it would take some time to grow into it. But I think, Miff, we've already talked a little bit and heard some rumblings around the league that one of the cleanest games, though they didn't end up winning the set, one of the cleanest individual games we've seen so far this year, in the limited number of games we've seen, was from the Valkyries, so they have that potential.
Yeah, I believe that was the game where Benny Q was playing Zhong Kui, and
it
was just dominant, man. I mean, he was getting kills, immediately rotating to gold. They were transitioning to objectives very well. But to speak briefly about the point you just made, it is a massive culture shock moving from the SEC to the SPL. Namely, it's almost the transition of, hey, I'm a high school senior. I'm the king of the school, you know. I'm at the top of the leaderboards over here. And then you go to college, and you're like, oh, I'm a freshman again.
No, see, I was very similar. I was still king of the
Well, yeah, but you're like 6'4" and like 220 pounds of pure muscle, man. No, we're not all that.
225, thanks very much. I also wasn't the king of college at all. I was a runty freshman at the time, and your metaphor tracks for me
Hey, appreciate
as well. The Valhalla Valkyries have an opponent in the Oni Warriors here today, who we have seen hit and miss from so far this year. A couple of losses, a really close one to the Olympus Bolts, 2-1 they fell there. Lost to the Dragons just yesterday, and a fantastic win for this Oni Warriors team over the Leviathans. And so early on, Miff, if we're continuing the storyline about this Oni Warriors team, is that last year weren't able to get all on land together until literally the World Championships. Took a while to get there. Now you've got a full year ahead of living either with or very close to one another, playing in studio with one another. And so I think now the expectations are really heightened for this team to hit some of those marks that we maybe expected them to hit in Season 8.
Yeah, I mean, but that's been the conversation around this squad for the entirety of their existence as a five-man core.
Good word.
Which one?
Existence. Go ahead.
Oh, phenomenal. I think that you really want to root the conversation around some of their more eclectic players, the guys that are going to go towards some of these stranger selections, and Dardes certainly fits that styling. One day he'll be playing the E-set. One day he'll be playing the On Her.
Oh, those
the next
beads.
day he's going to be beadsing red buff before the minion wave spawns. But it really is Dardes as the core of this team, keeping everybody guessing. It's what is it that he's going to do? What is the draft going to look like around him? Because I'm not certain. I'm not their coach. I'm not in their scrims. But I feel like a lot of the compositions that the Oni Warriors make are rooted around the mid lane. It's, hey, do we want Dardes to be a healer? Okay, let's build a draft around a healer. Do we want Dardes to play a hunter? Okay, well, how do we make that work? I am very curious to hear, or if we get a chance to hear from him, whether or not that is how it is panning out.
Why even bother pretending, Miff? Why even bother pretending? You're right. Dardes is here, and he is with us for the pregame interview, staring daggers into us when we played the red buff beads clip. I won't ask you what happens there. Don't worry, we'll gloss over that one. Talk to me a little bit about the way that your Phase 1 has gone so far. You fall to the Bolts, beat the Leviathans, drop to the Dragons. What do you think has been changing from you guys set to set? Or do you just think it's a consistency, getting used to Season 9 a little bit?
Well, the most important thing was streams. Like the stream environment, changed a lot since last year. I mean, I guess ping was a big issue, so everyone was not feeling it in streams. So this year, everyone on a normal ping. So we literally changed everything in streams.
Yep.
Everyone tried harder, I guess.
Right.
And it just worked out, I guess.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys bring up against the Valkyries today. Limited view of these guys so far here in Season 9. Obviously, it's a roster that played together at the SEC. You played a little bit against them during the SPL qualifier tournament. What do you expect going into this matchup? Do you think the Valkyries have what it takes to be a competitive team right now, or are you expecting them to be more of a long-term project?
I think it's more a long-term project, especially now that they still have two players on high ping.
Right.
So they have any time. They're a new team, but they have potential for sure.
Yeah, and I'm curious. Your matchup with Benny Q, obviously in lane, is going to be fun to watch. Picks and bans, it's always an interesting conversation. This team really likes to save Benny's picks to the back end of the draft. Does that change your strategy at all when the enemy mid laner is usually getting their pick last, or does that not really throw you guys too much?
I think it doesn't matter really because we know what we want to do, so we know our comps. So, but it does matter a bit, because we know they're probably their best player for sure, so we have to watch out. And yeah,
changes things up a little bit. Excited to watch you two match up. Excited for the set.
Thank you.
Best of luck and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Sure thing. And so the potential is what we're looking at for really both of these teams, I think, Miff. A potential that was sometimes realized for the Sony Warriors squad last year. But Dardes talks there about how the scrim environment, and I think probably feeling maybe less jaded about sort of the year in general, right? I mean, you're probably feeling like there's a weight off. All right, now we can finally get things rolling in the most effective way possible. And so if the Oni Warriors truly are as recentered as they say they are, I think the sky could be the limit for this roster. But again, I think what worries some people, some fans, some viewers, is that we've already seen some of the inconsistencies continue from last year over to the start of this year. But I have high hopes for this team. I am curious how the Valks will show up here today, because they're playing an Oni Warriors team that are trying to bounce back after a loss to the Dragons. I think this could end up being a very sneaky good matchup here, Mifflin, because the Valkyries have shown they're the type of team that can capitalize on mistakes.
Yeah, I've got the Valks and the Oni Warriors, if we're talking about just raw consistency, very close to each other in power rankings.
Right.
I would not be surprised if these two end the season at one above the other, because generally the Valks, I think, a more consistent team. If the Oni Warriors are capable of reaching up to that 10, they're also capable of going down to a 2 on the scale, and maybe at the end of the day they start to average out around that 6. Whereas I would argue the Valks, maybe their top end's looking like an 8 or a 9, but they are more consistently staying at that 6, and their bottom end is going to be maybe a little bit higher than what we've seen from the Oni Warriors in the past. So I think it is a great conversation to have of which version of the Oni Warriors are we looking at? Which version of the Valkyries are we looking at? Are we willing to say the Oni Warriors haven't had a whole lot of opportunity on land to practice together? We can't give them that excuse because the Valks haven't had it either.
Right, because I mean, eventually that conversation has to stop, right? I mean, we're still early on in Season 9. I do think it's still a worthwhile conversation about this being a year where this team is going to be together on LAN. You know, after a few months and you know, we're getting into Phase 2, if this team is still facing some similar struggles, you know, I don't think they haven't played on LAN yet a whole lot together can still be a conversation piece. But, again, I still think we have a little time before we get there. The Valkyries still waiting on their duo lane to get here in studio, but still have Aqua, Kirmi, and BenEQ playing live with us here today. I'm glad that Aqua and Kirmi were able to join. I was sad watching a video of BenEQ alone in the booth just the other day, but he'll have his solo and jungle here with him today. Speaking of solo and jungle, Shiva, first pick for the Valhalla Valkyries here, Mifflin. Available this week. Saw one example of it in our previous set. That was Layers playing Shiva out of the jungle. We assumed it might be solo lane. I still think it has some flexibility to both, but the Valkyries obviously highly prioritizing, highly regarding this pick.
Yeah, I think Shiva's got flex potential into 3 separate roles, solo, jungle, and support. He's got that level of CC. It's something that I've been saying consistently, which is that Shiva's ultimate can just be a pre-nerf meditation, gives HP and mana, which is very hard to contend with in the laning phase, so could open up the door to looking towards some of those support roles. Also has defense shred, great CC lockdown, good gap close, very safe with all that CC immunity. So I am curious to see where they decide to land this pick. I'm not willing to make a statement on it just yet, but if I had to, I am still probably thinking maybe jungle, one of his better roles.
Right.
Whereas on the other side,
I'm not going to make a statement, but here's my statement.
If I had to, and I do have to. Production's in my ear. On the other side, though, less flex potential. I think it's pretty clear where their 2 frontliners are going to land, Bacchus in support and Gilgamesh in the jungle.
AMC, though, less. But it is Dardes, and we know that Dardes has played these styles of picks out of mid. He's played them relatively successfully. AMC has already seen some mid lane play today. Just in our previous set, that Shinto build by the late game was gross with how much damage the AMC was doing and just how much shred there was, both through auto attacks and what was it? Transcendence, hi-rez, Crusher, Titan's Bane.
Good recall.
Mantle maybe ended that build, something like that.
He didn't need anything after that Titan's Bane. He was already swinging.
At any rate, there was a lot of damage there. So if it is a mid lane pick and you do want some more of that ability burst damage, could be a good look here for Dardes. Bologna was very strong for Yarkor in our previous set as well. That might funnel in Shiva to the jungle here, Miff, unless it does end up over in support. But Bologna very, very strong. And we will wait and see what it goes up against on the Oni Warriors if we're assuming this Gilga's jungle. And then, of course, Bacchus over in support. But I want to look at Bacchus here for Neilma. I think could be a good, strong pick for Neil and allowing him to facilitate an aggressive in-your-face playstyle.
And last time we saw Neilma pilot this god, it was very impressive, consistently finding 2, 3-man stuns in the early phase of the game, leaping in aggressively, getting in towards the enemy red buff, making sure that it is constant, proactive play on the map. And despite not hovering in lanes very often, wasn't really falling behind in gold, not too much in experience either. So I trust the Oni Warriors with this selection for themselves. That said, as of now, the Oni Warriors composition can be rounded out, but I'm worried about AoE damage output, and I'm worried about consistent engage. Bacchus can initiate your fights constantly, but it's generally going to be single target. That burp in a late game team fight, more often than not, won't be connecting with more than one guy. Belly flop, more than often than not, generally will just be one guy as well. And Gilgamesh might have good disruption factor in a 5-on-5 engagement, but initiating with them, pretty difficult.
Chuckles, the coach of the Oni Warriors, probably has a lot going on in his mind here. When you get to this final couple of picks for the Valhalla Valkyries, now the final pick for the Valhalla Valkyries, you know it's going to be BenEQ at some point in there. Though if what Dardes says said during that interview holds true. You're not putting too much weight into that final pick being Benny Q's. You're playing your own game plan, you're drafting your own style, and hoping that you can cover your bases regardless of what Benny Q ends up getting with the final pick. Usually is Benny, if you're getting the last pick, it's still open to the Valk, so I think that shows us. Should be Shiva jungle, Bologna solo, Horus, of course, over in support, and then Medusa in ADC in all likelihood. Myth, you point out a couple areas where you feel like the Oni Warriors can still fill some needs here, AoE damage, things like that. You've got some good initiation already between Gilgamesh and Bacchus. If this doesn't end up being a mid lane AMC, would you like to see something a little more standard here for Dardes? Because it's such a unique conversation with Dardes specifically, where almost similarly to Benny Q, some of the more stranger, more Dardes-esque picks end up being some of his stronger looks.
Yeah, if it doesn't go mid, and I think I would prefer it to not go mid now looking at what we see from the Valkyries, I think something like an Agni could go a long way.
Yeah.
Even the Hera just acting as another form of consistent CC as well as a decent self-peel god. Polymorph, essentially a disarm as well as a silence. The HP shield going to help you out a fair bit up against Shiva and Bologna, who is likely just going to be accosting you throughout the entire duration of the game. I think could go a long way for the Oni Warriors. One of the concerns I had initially was some of that AoE ability, that AoE damage. Cerberus doesn't bring a whole lot of that. Ghastly Breath, sure. Mainly the Stygian Torment, but it will help you out a lot in terms of initiation, which is something I think the Oni Warriors were desperately needing. Another consistent beads-burning tool. And another one lined up with it, Cernunnos locked in. That ultimate with the most recent buffs is incredibly strong. Now does damage to the minion wave. Bramble Blast now has a cripple on it.
Yep.
So now the Valkyries' beads going to be a little bit more so under threat. But these late-game team fights are really going to come down to a lot of single-target damage.
Right.
And that's pretty hard to execute on, especially against a draft like this. The Valks are very slippery.
I mean, we've already seen these double hunter compositions prioritized, not only today, but just in Season 9
into
in
Bologna,
general.
though? Ugh.
Right, into Bologna doesn't feel great. As a Persephone hovered, would be a strong pick for Benny Q. Vote doesn't seem to mind with the hover that the Valhalla Valkyries are looking for here. Does end up being a Persephone lock-in, Mifflin. And so I think this caters to something Benny Q told us in an interview where, yes, I like playing the weird stuff, but I'm also very good at the standard stuff as well. And so with that said, I think Persephone could be and should be a strong pick for Benny Q here with the final pick of the draft.
Yeah, and now looking at Cernunnos and AMC, I think it is more likely that we see AMC in the center of the map. Pretty easy to lock him down with Grasp of Death. Just aim at a wall near him. He doesn't really have any way to reposition quickly enough to avoid that CC lockdown. From there, Shiva can close gap very easily. Bologna, if she's in the team fight, can as well. Global displacement or reinitiation potential from Horus. This is a draft from the Valkyries that I like a whole lot. I feel like they have got a high potential threshold here of just pulling a lead in the early game and continually running with it. Whereas the Oni Warriors, it's going to come down to Gilgamesh in particular, in conjunction with this Bacchus, to keep them afloat, keep their head above water for the first 15 minutes.
Feels like you might think, Miff, that the Valkyries have given themselves a little more breathing room in executing this composition. Is that a statement you might agree with?
Anytime you've got a mage on your team and the enemy's got double hunter, your draft is just that much easier to play. AoE damage much easier to apply. You can accidentally line up some more kills, whereas when you are running double hunter composition, your target allocation needs to be perfect. And on a composition that is already hard to apply CC, it's going to make it that much more difficult.
I think this dual lane is going to be a lot of fun to watch, Miff. You got a Bacchus on one side, a Horus on the other side, the ability to get aggressive for both Gamma and Neoma, and then I would assume AMC mid, Cern, then over in ADC up against a Medusa as well. Horus plus Medusa, Miff.
Scary.
Feels like it should have the upper hand, but then you got Bacchus and Cern trying to jump in there as well. Maybe there's potential for some excitement early on in this lane.
There is. Cern's got a very good counter matchup into Medusa. She's very one-track mind in the initiation, Lacerate and the Viper Shot, generally how you start the majority of your fights. Now Bramble Blast, having that cripple on it, going to be very strong at slowing down some of that aggression. Bacchus similarly, if you see that dash in, immediately followed up with a knock-up in your own right. It's a volatile duo lane, to say the least. If the Oni Warriors duo pulls a lead, they will likely hold on to it. If the Valks do the same, they will likely hold on to it themselves. That said, if it goes even and supports start to rotate out, I start to favor the Cern.
I think that this solo lane as well carries a sneaky amount of weight here in this set. Nika time and time again pulls this Oni Warriors team forward. You give him a pick like the Cerberus that has high potential for high impact. And then Aqua, someone who's played in the SPL in the past, Bologna already today has started to run over team fights. We saw Yarkor in just our previous set snag a triple kill on this pick. So something that can find pressure in lane, but also take over team fights later on. The soul lane, the right side of the map between these two teams becomes a very, very unique matchup. Both junglers, I think, have the ability to get active here in this matchup, Mifflin. I think in general, you look at Oni Warriors versus Valhalla Valkyries, we expect these two teams to maybe end up close in the standings to one another, so I'm anticipating this matchup to be pretty close. Hard to call game one.
It is. I really am putting a lot of weight on this Gilgamesh selection. You need that to hit the ground running, just to transition you into that mid game. He's going to be the bridge for this draft.
Valhalla Valkyries versus the Oni Warriors. Game number 1 of our final set of the day starts right now.
Yeah, these two teams had to qualify into the SPL, and they both were able to do so together this time around. And now we're going to have their first official SPL face-off here in week number 2 of the SPL. Oni Warriors versus Valhalla Valkyries. We were kind of jokingly discussing maybe Benny was going to take this Shiva over into the mid lane, but no, we will see what the desk was calling out here. Shiva in the jungle on the role of Kirmi. It's Jam and Charlie here in game number 1. And this Shiva pick feels like it is right up Kirmi's alley. Also Rosie, got to give a shout out to Rosie for stepping in here. A lot of damage already to Cuvo, but going back, I mean, this Shiva feels like it's right up Kirmi's alley of play.
Yeah, the triple warrior comp that we see here from the Valks, I think is going to try to get ahead early. I mean, Shiva has a lot of damage early as Gamma gets trapped already, just taking over to level 2 there. Probably will have the dash to escape. But as I was saying, yeah, Shiva just brings a lot of pressure early. You have to find a lead if you're the Valks early, because as the game goes on, as Miff touched on, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with double ADC.
I mean, that duo lane, specifically of these two teams here, is going to be one that's got a lot of value thrown into. I mean, the Bacchus versus Horus matchup, even the Cernanos versus Medusa, like Mifflin was highlighting, kind of a nice counter matchup there with that Bramble Blast into it. But this duo lane already starting off at least a nice little bit of evenness here. Gamma is a little bit lower on health. That's just from the initial initiation there by Neilmon that first wave.
I like to see that Nika did not hold up. He did hold off on getting a relic here. Has not chosen which one he wants just yet. Could go into the teleport if he thinks he needs it, but also just on the other side, Aqua going for the beads, recognizing how much CC is on this roster here against him. But I do like when the solo laners do this. You have the option. You can say, hey, I can get the teleport if I need it. I can get beads. I can get blink. There's just a lot of more avenues there.
Gamma is up here just blocking this wave. He does have the second dash to get a little bit of health back towards himself. Playing very aggressive. Up just all that to stop the belch out of Neilmon when there was no follow-up after. I mean, I guess distracting for Wowie to take that Harpy on the left side of the lane there, but Gamma's really stepping up far in this lane.
Yeah, Horus is going to find lots of pressure at the moment, but I think just trying to make sure that Wowie gets enough safe farm is the option here. As we see Kirmi heading towards this right side of the map, recognizing the blue buff is about to spawn. Nika might have to fight this one on his own.
Kirmi does go in, get some good damage with that first and second ability on Shiva, but not going to find the kill just yet. Nika a little tanky still in this early stage of the game. At this point, not going to be a kill just yet for the Valkyries.
No, Kirmi does not have the mana to continue this, so Nika is going to get the buff, and he will be able to back off here. Your blue buff is still up on the other side of the map, though, so you have your hopes over there. And at the moment, the mid lane just seems like a stalemate. I mean, when you see an AMC and a Persephone, I just imagine wave clear and backup. There's going to be no brawling there, right? I mean, obviously, if Dardes gets a little cheeky and finds a stinger, there could be some fighting, but I really doubt that it's going to be anything but clear back camps. But this duo lane, there could be some sparks flying, depending on if Neil or Gamma want to get aggressive.
So far, the level pressure is in favor of Neil and Vote, only very slightly compared to Gamma Wowie. Ult for ult in the solo lane, though, will trade out. Nika will be just fine here, making sure to keep Aquarius at bay. But over there, coming back to the Shiva, I don't imagine that Kirmi is just going to let that one gank get to him. Make a rotation over into mid. I mean, the prot shred that comes from that emblazoned sweep on that first ability, assuming that you are in your red stay at that time, can be very valuable, especially in these early games.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Kirmi does end up building the Shiva. As we just saw Layers play it for the first time here, but with that ultimate late game, you really do need some movement speed to make the use of it. Everyone just sort of runs away once you start dancing. Of course, you could just use it to heal your teammates, and they're not going to run away from that. But if you are going to be damaging, you're going to want to make sure you can keep up with whoever you're chasing here. So it really just depends. Can Kirmi run after an AMC? It's going to be difficult.
Cuvo pops the ultimate, but there's a lot in response here from the Valkyries immediately. First blood now goes the way of Kirmi, but it's a massive setup coming not just from BennyQ, but from Gamma as well.
Yep, first blood going the way of this Shiva, as we highlighted on the video beforehand, is showing exactly what you can do. Again, Cubo didn't start beats. He has the blink, so any sort of CC here is going to be very difficult for Gilgamesh to try and live, so I'm not going to give the full credit of that kill just to what Shiva brings, but obviously the Grasping Death and the knock-up from Gamma is going to spell death for the jungler of the Yoni Warriors here. A small lead, pretty much just the first blood bounty. That's about all we see.
Yeah, not too much going on here as far as these two teams are concerned in the early game, but getting an early kill onto Kirmi, and it's something that, we talked about on the desk before, in our last set, where Shiva really does feel like more of that early game focused guy, because as you were mentioning, late game, you're sitting in that ultimate, and you're only doing damage, every 1.5 seconds you're either healing or doing damage during that one. So you have a lot of downtime here. Nika is going to throw Kirmi down, but it's an immediate Eagles rally out of Aquarius. Not going to get much there, just enough for a disengage here from the Valks.
That's the second half blue buff invade we've seen. Not a full blue buff invade. You're not committing much, but you're just going to look at the blue buff, say, hey, I kind of want this buff. And then say, I can't really get the buff. So Aqua going back for his own blue once again. Still not too much action happening on the map here. As we mentioned, really just the first blood bounty is the only real lead we're seeing. As we start to see, Dardes does have that Transcendence online, so we'll start stacking that here shortly. On the flip side, BennyQ going for the Spear of Desolation, just going for that flat pen start, but not the Spear of the Magus, obviously, the Spear of Desolation here, just for that CDR.
Yeah, the extra little bit of CR, tons of power on that item too. It's just become kind of the go-to first item for so many of these mid laners right now, even if you're not going with one of the 3 to 4 traditional big flat pen mage startups now, like the Thoughts and the Agnis of such here. Just become a very common point. But looking at both of these supports here, Sovereignty's the first item on both of them this time around.
Yeah, it looks like, I think Neomaw's just worried about, hey, there's 4 physicals on that side, so the Sovereignty's going to be smart. On the flip side, as Gamma's going to take a little bit of damage here as invading this obelisk, but not too much. Pretty close to taking over to get that Indra Scepter, but it looks like Neomaw's trying to steal some away as well. Really depends here. It's going to be one more offering. But as I was saying, just a lot of physical damage to be worried about. 4 on the side of the Valhalla Valkyries. On the flip side, you have double ADC to deal with as well as the Gilgamesh. So Sovereignty going to be very strong here.
Kirmi keeping Cuvo and Neil at bay, not allowing them to steal any of these offering camps away. Gamma with no ultimate. Kirmi does have ult and might need it here. Uses the double dash to get away with that Pillar of Dawn. But for now, Kirmi will be just fine. It's still 2 grouped up from the Warriors to try and steal these offerings away. They'll be able to get a couple of them out here, and that'll stack up the obelisk. Just shy of 7 minutes now, the Warriors able to get that objective. Gamma drop kicked against the wall, but that's about it. All sets up for a purple invade for votes.
I love to see the stock that these teams are putting into the obelisk. Obviously, the Camelot Kings have been putting a lot of pressure on, but besides that, no one really going for these invades too often. If it is going to put you out of position, teams don't want to lose the HP just to get this small Indra Scepter, right? But on the flip side, it's a lot of AoE damage. It's going to help you out if you are trying to be aggressive. And Neomaw's playstyle, he wants the W key. He wants to be flopping in, looking for these belches. A little bit of extra AoE damage is going to go a long way here on these engages.
And that or the HP 5, depending on if you're near anybody or not, always going to be a nice little boon, especially for how aggressive, as you say, he is playing here. Whether he's actually fighting or just getting a couple of billies and creating some space here, Neil should be able to make strong value out of this Indra Scepter. But as this early game has gone through, as this first blood is broken out, the Valkyries have kind of lost a little bit of their lead. It's only about 200 now that they have up, which is essentially pocket change at this stage of the game. We're 8 minutes in, and so far only the 1 kill on the board.
Yeah, no real action just yet besides that 1 kill. So it really depends. I'm looking at Neomaw, right? He has the Indra Scepter now. You have this extra damage. Are you going to be engaging in? Because if you flop and you miss, you're going to be getting Grasping Death and into a CC chain. It's not going to be good here, and the flop goes down, and I think that's the engage.
Kirmi's going to go right back in immediately into that ultimate. Neilmaw is stuck in there, and Kirmi will just do any damage that he can while dancing around there. Neilmaw still low, but he doesn't go down. The Valkyries not willing to commit to finish that kill on the enemy support. Under 200 HP, Neil able to walk out of this fight.
Yeah, but Nika does make the rotation over. Big ult here, just has Gamma though.
No, he finds 2, and that's going to be Kirmi and Gamma going down. Aquarius late on the rotation over, gets dropkick and has to pop the beads right away. Cubo jumps right back in, but but the Warriors have already punched right back. 2 now on the board for the Warriors.
That's a great answer back. Whenever the Cerberus and the Bacchus are together, you're getting Sovereignty Aura as well as that Jade Emp. This is going to start to stack up pretty heavily against this 4-Fizz comp here, so great itemization for the Oni Warriors as Wowie, 2 levels down, is trying to defend his purple buff, but is just getting obliterated.
Yeah, no, Wowie, just let it go, my friend. You're not going to get this purple buff unless you throw your entire body at stopping this, and when there's Cubo and Vote both over-leveled compared to you, probably not the best idea. So Neil will get aggressive towards this red buff, won't steal it, but at least put a little bit of pressure over against BennyQ here, and give Dardes a chance to get some extra farm in this mid lane. We haven't been seeing too much of these two specifically getting big impact plays out of here. Neil able to walk away after that Grasp of Death last time around. Maybe just Dardes getting that extra little bit of pot damage here with these bees.
Yeah, I think just the natural bulk of Bacchus is going to come help you out a ton during that sort of CC chain. And of course, BennyQ is prioritizing the flat pen right now, has the Divine Ruin now on top of that Spear of Desolation. So this Persephone is going to start swinging a little bit harder now on top of some of that anti-heal. But either way, I think Neil just using that chug effectively to say, hey, I know that I flopped in here, but I still have a lot of extra tank stats, so I'm not going to fall again.
So far, I mean, just looking at the XP across the board, it's in favor of the Warriors, and a lot of that coming from this dual lane, the Hunters Vote, with that level and a half up over Wowie. Wowie has not really been able to have an impact in this lane as of yet. Still falling behind on that farm, too. Only the third lowest farm here in the game comparatively. Neilmaw 1-0-1, actually maxing out that Belch, and did end up putting a point into that Chug. We see oftentimes that some Bacchus players will not put any points into Chug or put one fairly late, but Neil's got one in here early.
Yeah, trying to make use of that passive. Again, wants to get aggressive, trying to get as much damage off. Still has that Interceptor ticking away. Actually, I think, nope, it's still there. So yeah, just making sure to do as much damage as possible here. And I'm looking once again towards Dardes. Already has that second relic available. 1-0 on this pretty immobile AMC pick as Nika might have a little bit of aggression towards him over here.
It's a dash in and an ult. It's a 4-man commit out of the Valkyries to make sure that this solo laner pays the price for walking up to the blue. It's Kirmi with another kill this time around. 2-1 now for the jungler of the Valkyries, and a much needed kill to get himself back in this game.
Yeah, no way Gold Fury doesn't get started up here, right? I mean, 4 members were called out, but it just took so long. So it looks like the Oni Warriors are not going to have a Gold Fury pull, despite putting 4 members onto that right side of the map. Swing and a miss for both of those abilities there. Dardes is going to live to see another day.
Yeah, Gamma just off the mark with the dash, and BennyQ just a little too far to the side with his ultimate. Kirmi will dance on his enemies to try and get some damage and some healing to help out Wowie, but it's not going to be enough. Cubo drops 1. Gamma gets the knock-up onto 2. Kirmi with a double emblazoned sweep, but it's not going to be enough because the drop kick out of Cubo is good for the double kill, and Nika will join the fight and pick up a kill of his own. 3 sweep here for the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, 5v2 now. Just Aqua and Gamma left to try and defend this Gold Fury. But look at this. They're being zoned out at the middle of the map right now. So I don't think anyone is going to stop that Gold Fury. But also looks like the Pyromancer will also be pulled here. Or okay, they're not actually going to go for it here. I was thinking maybe they would go for the double pull. But Dardes doesn't have too much damage. Does have Transcendence and Crusher, but not enough to confidently pull Gold Fury and Pyro at the same time.
No, not going to grab it this time around, but Gold Fury does go the way of the Oni Warriors, so that'll bump themselves up a nice 1,600 gold in the lead. XP about 3K. That's dropped down just a little bit after that team fight just before this one. You can see it kind of bumping back there towards the Valks, but that team fight, a 3 sweep plus a Fury, puts the Warriors safely back in the lead here. Only 12.5 minutes into the game. Nika very early on his rotation compared to Aqua in that last team fight, even able to pick up a kill for himself during it.
Yeah, making sure to have that Cerberus help you out in the team fights is going to be huge for this squad. Again, that Jade Amp and the Sovereignty Auras are going to help out a ton. Looking over at Aqua, though, just going for that normal sort of auto-attack-based Bellona build. Shoguns into Frostbound. Going to be very annoying to deal with, no doubt, but just a different style of solo laner right now. If Aqua does rotate over, mostly going to be looking at those ADCs, trying to get them with the Frostbound, slow some of that attack speed, that sort of thing. But right now, we're seeing some grouping around the Obelisk once again, but it looks like they aren't going to go for it just yet.
Do you see a Thorns pickup by Aqua on back here? So kind of trying to deal with some of this double Hunter auto attack damage coming out. But the name of the game when you talk about Thorns is always you need to make sure that you've got the health, the protections to be able to eat this damage. So far, Aquarius doesn't really have much way in physical damage. Ton of health though, a lot of it coming from Frostbound. Just not a lot of defense just yet to deal with these carries. Kiermi will dash in onto Cuvo. Fred, when Shmash is down, the dropkick gets immune by the ultimate, and the whole team has rallied together, and it's Benny Q who picks up the kill.
The Valhalla Valkyries are grouping very nicely to find these picks, but it's what they do after the fact that really matters here. It's great that you can find one pick. You know, they found the pick on the Cerberus last time, but what are you answering back with? Obviously, the Gold Fury is down. Pyromancer is up. It would be nice if they were to look at it here, but I think they're just a little bit too worried about the Cerberus.
Kiermi pops his beats to get away from Nika's ultimate, but now Nika's surrounded by 3, 4. Once Benny Q is able to get in here, Neil's doing a good job trying to zone, but that sweep pulls Nika back in, but he's healing so much during this fight. Not a lot more damage thrown over towards this solo laner. The Valkyries come up empty-handed in the fight.
Yeah, not too much tank stats for Kiermi just yet. Has the Jotuns into the Crusher. This Shiva pick is a warrior, so has some tank stats generally built in here, but pretty much full damage besides that. So gonna have to build a little bit hybrid, because as we've mentioned, that ultimate does take a little bit to get the damage off. As we are seeing, the Pyromancer finally is pulled up here. Dardes is walking, but no, not gonna be in time. So the Valhalla Valkyries are gonna take down the Pyromancer, trying to even up that gold a little bit.
Raider Scorpion will be started up here by the Warriors. They'll be able to take that one, but it's Pyromancer for the Valkyries to close this lead right back. It's a nice little roller coaster that we've got going on here in game number 1 between the Warriors and the Valkyries. Only 1,000 gold and about 1,500 XP that the Valkyries are down now after that last little objective gets picked up here. But a lot of this pressure in the dual lane. We still haven't really seen Wowie able to make a big impact with this Medusa as of yet. It's mostly been Vote on the Cernunos getting the better hand in these team fights.
It's nice to see these mid laners finally getting some percentage pen online. The full Obsidian Shard built for the Persephone. Benny Q going to be doing a great amount of damage to these tanks. But on the flip side, Titan's Bane just outright build by Dardes. With the Stinger as well, there's going to be a lot of prot shred here if you are fighting around this AMC, recognizing just how much physical protections are going to be built by the enemy team.
Kiermi showing off the CC immunity in that pillar form of the dash out of Shiva. Gamma rooted in place and crippled by that Brambling Blast. Kiermi getting back into this fight. The sweep will be enough to steal away the Oracle Harpies, so while he won't get any kills in there, he'll at least get the vision control for his team here on the Valkyries. And the objective vision is going to be the name of the game for these guys here. Can't let that Gold Fury go down, but I can only imagine that's not going to be a free objective at any point, Show. I mean, team fights is where we start to see these greater neutral objectives go down.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm a little surprised we haven't seen a Shogun's built yet from the Oni Warriors. They do have the double ADC, as we're seeing Dardes take a lot of damage.
Dardes just misses out on getting hit by the ultimate, but he still gets latched in. Benny finds a kill on the back of the fight, and Kiermi finds one at the foreground of it. It's 2 down on the side of the Oni Warriors. Neil and Nika still fairly healthy on the front lines for the Warriors, but now the Valkyries will regroup themselves. But there isn't a whole lot to get. Objectives are still down across the map.
Yeah, Wowie was still on that left side of the map, and doesn't look like he's going to rotate over anytime soon. That Oni Fury will be spawning shortly. That is going to be looked at, I imagine, but still, 19 seconds on Cuvo and 25 on Dardes. If you pull it quickly, you might have a shot to fight a 5v3 if you are the Valhalla Valkyries, but they did just use a lot of ultimates just to try to confirm those 2 kills, so I doubt they're going to try to pull this one right away.
And the number of near misses that Benny Q has had with that ultimate against Dardes or against Cuvo Fred has been numerous this game, but at least that time did manage to hit the wall right behind Dardes, locking him in place there. But the Valkyries will start up the Oni Fury. Kiermi will tank that one up for his team, but he's going to need a little bit of help from the rest of them to start shredding this one out. Neil is here, but he's being zoned away by Aqua, and the Valkyries will take the Oni Fury and take the lead back now over the Oni Warriors.
So annoying, man. Bologna with Frostbound is just
it's
so annoying. Especially the support like Bacchus, but Neil is going to go in here, get a little bit of poke, but I do not think there's any kill potential at the moment. Aquarius just a little bit too tanky looking at the targets on the map, but it looks like they recognize where Vote is, and we might see an ult over here on the left side of the map.
Could see something. Gamma instead will drop down on Vote. He'll miss, so instead he'll need a blink and a beads out of Vote. Teleport now comes through for Nika, and that's the disengage for Gamma and Wowie. Big relics and a big ultimate expended on the side of the Warriors just to defend Vote.
Yeah, there could be a re-engage though. Neil not quite ticked over to level 12 yet, still 11. I was waiting to see what he would get for that second relic. Does have the blink, as Cuvo is going to have to deal with some more Frostbound shenanigans for quite some time here. Aquarius, not shy of just trying to outbox people right now.
Oh, the Thorns pop by Aqua. A jump in and a jump in response. Aqua not able to close out the kill. Dardes has just too much damage on this AMC, maybe. A little case of Aqua focusing on the wrong target the entire time. Cuvo makes it out. Dardes gets a kill. And Aqua goes down for the first time this game.
Yeah, maybe Aqua thought Kirmi was a little bit faster there, but no way he was going to be able to help him there. The solo kill, I think, just a little bit overzealous here by Aquarius. And now there is a numbers advantage if you are the Oni Warriors, and they are going to rotate over just to see what they can see. But it looks like Cuvo is on the left side of the map, so Fire Giant or Pyromancer are about to spawn in, obviously. Not going to be looked at.
Nika and Neil here by the Oni Warriors at the front line to clear out these camps and be there just in case this Fire Giant does get started up by the Valks. But with everybody still alive aside from Aqua, no reason that the Valkyries should start that one up. Instead, it's Dardez taking the tier 1 tower in that mid lane. And once again, a nice little lead here by both of the Hunters on the Warriors. 19 on the side of Dardez for his level, 18 for Vote. Both of them a level up again compared to their opposition. And as we start getting towards these later team fights, Trelly, I mean, where is the moment for the Valkyries? I mean, what pick do the Valkyries need to get to start winning some of these big 5v5s?
I mean, it really depends, because right now Dardez is doing so much damage, even optimized into that Odie bow. So just AoE shred going to be happening to the whole squad at the moment. It's a lot of AoE damage, obviously, with the Bluestone proc on the bees and things of that nature. So it's going to be very annoying to deal with if the AMC is free casting. I have to imagine that's where your mind immediately goes to, as Pyromancer will get pulled. Only Aquarius is close by, but Kirmi's on the way as well.
Cuvo will drop kick Aqua into the pillar of the Fire Giant pit to set up for the Pyromancer to go the way of the Oni Warriors. They'll make a hasty retreat back. But it's 4 now surrounding this tier 1 tower. Don't imagine the Valkyries will let this one stand for much longer. Gamma will stun out Neil, and that'll be enough of a setup to instead go right back on Neil. A big ultimate out of Benny will shut down Neilma. Aqua dealing with the other 3 by himself, but Aqua should go down. Eagles Rally gets him out, but not out of the way entirely. Nika jumps on in to close out that kill. Kirmi using that Shiva Tandava ultimate to heal himself up and the rest of the team, and that'll be a re-engage now. Kirmi goes right back in, but a big ult out of Vote will separate the team fight. The Valkyries are all spread out. Dardez under fire in the mid, but not enough damage from the support to take him down.
No one is going to fall here. It looks like Cerberus trying to chase you. I don't think Nika has too much damage. It's going to eat a lot from Persephone, so they are going to have to back off here. Just a 1-for-1 trade. But if you're looking at the respawn timers, Aqua's going to be dead for a lot longer than Neilma. Already respawned in here. Of course, Pyromancer is down. Gold Fury's not going to be up for a bit, and neither team feels confident enough to go for this Fire Giant. But we talked about Benny Q's ults a little bit. A couple swings and misses that time, dead on to lock in Neilma, optimizing into that Spirit Robe. I really thought maybe a Mantle or a Magi's because he doesn't have the beads, but this time just trying to live some of this CC, not trying to immune it.
Yeah, once he does get slammed down by there, should be a nice little boost to the defenses of Neil. He'll use some of that aggression to go on top of Gamma and Kirmi. Kirmi is slapboxing against Cuvo Fred. Now that backup with Benny Q is here, should be good. But the Oni Warriors, they started up the Fire Giant that whole time. It was just a bait, but it's a re-engage now by the Valkyries. Gamma only finds Neil Ma, but that's not going to be enough. Cuvo Fred still low and still on the run. And with Aqua's ult already expended, the Oni Warriors will sneak out that Fire Giant and get out of the team fight.
Yeah, they have double ADC. The shred is always going to be there. Obviously, this is the benefit. Vote has the crit, and then Dardez has the shred. That's the idea behind this comp. You can't itemize against both of them, obviously, because anti-crit isn't exactly going to help you with all this prod shred that Dardez has with the Titan's Bane at the moment. So it's going to be difficult to deal with. You always have to make sure that your ward game is strong. So despite the Valks finding a little bit of aggression, the Fire Giant will go the way of the Oni Warriors now, and they are grouping around this Gold Fury as well. A lot of towers still on the map, J-Back. Tier 1s to the left and right, and then every Tier 2 still standing tall.
Still a lot of gold to be had and a lot of defensive plays to be made for really both of these teams. All Tier 2s standing on the map for both of these sides here. Only a 1 tower difference between them. And when you look at the gold, I mean, that 1 tower difference isn't all that much. It's only a 1K-ish lead here for the side of the Oni Warriors as far as the gold is concerned. XP matters a lot less and less as we start getting towards this 25-minute mark, as most players on the map, aside from the supports, typically will be hitting that level 20 threshold here. You can see the only ones not at level 20, Jungle, Cuvo, Fred here on the side of the Warriors, and 1 level left still for Aqua and Wowie on the side of the Valks.
Yeah, still some large power spikes to be had here. We are seeing the Bluestone Brooch finished for Dardez, obviously, on that AMC, and the Blood-Soaked Shroud for Nika, but on the flip side, Bumba's Hammer, arguably one of the best items on Gilgamesh, still is yet to be built for Cuvo. Hasn't upgraded just yet. Could go into the Bumba Spear, I suppose, but most of the time. But we're seeing Gamma go to the skies here. They might be setting something up.
Where is he going to land is the question. It seems to be right back at the line of the Tier 2 tower just to regroup with the rest of the Valkyries. But the Oni Warriors aren't really pushing up too far just yet. Now joining up on that left-hand side, it'll just be Cuvo in the mid by himself in a 4v4 on this left tier 2 tower. But neither of the junglers are present at the moment. Kiermi just now getting back to the fight. But with double Hunter, I mean, these towers should go down quickly, but the Warriors, they're not willing to step up into this tower.
Yeah, they're playing it smart here. The Valks realize that the gold lead is about as close as it's going to be. After these towers are gone, it'll be much different, but if they keep them up, the gold will not spiral out of control. So they are going to be defending this. Right now, 4v4. Looks like Cuvo might be trying to wrap from behind, but Kiermi spots this out as well. So no one's starting the fight just yet.
I mean, it's a jungler versus jungler inside the jungle. Try saying that one 3 times fast. And then a 4v4 under the tower that Neil starts up by blinking in, but he's going to immediately be caged out. And BennyQ has so much damage with Wowie. Neilmaw is already gone from the fight. The tier 2 tower now under fire. Nika goes in, and the 1v1 between Kiermi and Cuvo, that one's going the way of Kiermi. But the tier 2 tower goes down. Kiermi dives in up against Vote, dashes in, and Gamma has rejoined the fray with them. Ultimate out of Kiermi to dance in, get some damage, or maybe just get some hell. Cuvo with some big drop kicks will hold off Gamma. And now in a 5v4, the Valkyries cannot move too much further forward.
Yeah, about Gamma wishes he still had that ultimate available to chase this one down. But I'm sure at this point, a pretty even trade, though. You lose Neilmaw, but you get the tier 2 tower for everyone as Kiermi is getting chased here. I think they'll be able to chase this one down. No more dashes for Kiermi.
Kiermi does juke out the swarm, though. That's not going to be the final bit of damage. Gamma goes in to get some heals back towards Kiermi. Cubo goes in, but misses the drop kick. A good dash out of Kiermi keeps him alive, but Gamma will pay the price instead. It's Dardes credited to the kill on the side of the Warriors. And now 50 seconds until the support of the Valks is back up.
Yeah, no ults available for the Oni Warriors, but really no ults available on the side of the Valks either. Eagles Rally is up. BennyQ's ult a little bit away as well. So if they are trying to go for this tier 2 tower, which it looks like they're more so looking for this Pyromancer, as Fire Giant does just fall off here. That's a lot of damage.
Jump out from Nika, gets him away from the ultimate from BennyQ, but Benny is starting to swing. Double flat pen, Obsidian Shard for the percent pen up against this Cerberus, and then a Soul Reaver, 4th item here. Benny's doing quite the numbers here. If you look at the player damage charts, I mean 6,000 to the next person below both of the mid laners who are barely even 100 damage separating each other there. And BennyQ up against Dardes here, at least a 3-1 and 4 across the board for both of them.
Yeah, both doing very similar things in the damage department and the KD department, but the Fire Giant is about to spawn here, about 20 seconds. Looking at the relics, Dardes is missing beads. Of course, Cuvo's missing Blink, but on the flip side, Kirby's missing both. So if the engage starts a little bit earlier, maybe leaning more towards the left-hand side.
It is a persistent teleport as highlighted here by Rosie and a belt of the Berserker on the side of the Warriors. Both of those are up, so if Nika takes a little too much poke, he can find his way right back into the team fight very quickly. Neil providing a lot of burn for the side of the Warriors here. Fire Giant now started up by the Valkyries, but maybe just seeing if any of the Warriors will step up. It's Nika and Cubo at the front line, but the Valks are taking a slow burn on this fire. They're not going to commit to it fully just yet, but now with fire at half and Neil in the pit, it's the turn away from the Valkyries as Neil already down to half health. Make that basically 0 health. Not quite yet, though. Ultimate off the mark for Benny, but the damage after is good. It's a double kill for the mid laner. Kiermi finds one. Cubo Fred goes down as well. He can finally pick up a kill for himself. And Nika, the last one alive for the Warriors. He'll be able to jump away, but how far will he run and how much time can he buy?
It really depends on how the stall game goes here. I think the Valks are going to try to go for the end. They're going to run it down mid. Do not care about the Fire Giant, but now Aquarius just has to chase Nika all over the map at the moment, so you won't have your solo laner for this Titan if it is what you're going for. I see 18 seconds on Neilmaw. Besides that, I think Cerberus will eventually die, so it's going to be Bacchus versus 4.
Gonna be 10 seconds until Neil is back up, and he's gonna have to defend against 4 of the Valkyries. 5 more seconds till this Bacchus is back, but Charlie, it seems that game 1 here could be going over to the Valhalla Valkyries. Neil jumps in, he gets stunned on landing. It's not enough damage to get to Gamma here. Finally, the Titan will take him down, but an ult back in from Benny, and not enough time for Nika to slow this one down. It's the Valhalla Valkyries taking game number 1.
What a crazy team fight there to make sure that the Valks are able to win at least game 1 here, taking us to game 2 here shortly. But Persephone just hitting huge amounts of damage. BennyQ knows his way around this pick, and besides those early ults that we were mentioning a little bit, these last ones were landing pretty effectively. The damage was out there.
I mean, this is one of the things that, Benny was talking to us with interviews. It's, yes, I can play all these weird things, but when it comes down to what is good right now, he plays it well, and he played it well here in game number 1 with this Persephone. We'll take it to a quick break, and we'll come back to the desk right after.
It's a lot harder, baby, than it looks. I'ma tell you that I don't wanna stop and think for more than a second. Oh yeah. As long as we got our hearts and souls. The rest is easy. We give up with what we have. No worries in me to keep us in the air. So come on, give it all to me, yeah. 'Cause only love can set you free. If this is more than fantasy, yeah. We don't have to wake up, so wake me up from this fantasy. From this fantasy. You say you can't light the fire when it's burning. Oh, but I say that we both wanna make this work. Yeah, yeah. Now nothing in this world can stop me from yearning. Yeah, 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 yeah. Maybe there's a stage and a time for us. So now, the rest is easy. We give up with what we got. No worries in me to keep us going up. So come on, give it all to me, yeah. 'Cause only love can set you free. If this is more than fantasy, yeah. We don't have to wake up, so wake me up from this fantasy. From this fantasy. Don't wanna wake up, wake up. Don't wake me up from this, up from this. Don't wanna wake up, wake up. Don't wake me up from this fantasy. So come on, give it all to me, yeah. 'Cause only love can set you free. So come on, give it all to me, yeah. 'Cause only love can set you free. If this is more than fantasy, yeah. We don't have to wake up, so wake me up from this fantasy. From this fantasy.
Valhalla Valkyries in game number 1 take down the Oni Warriors, not without some pushback, not without some questions being asked by the Warriors, but the Valhalla Valkyries had all of the answers in game number 1. And yet again, it's the star player in Benny Q that steps up down the stretch. The Persephone looks great, and ends up being a game 1 win for the Valhalla Valkyries. Mifflin joins me with full heart, clear mind, and excited to break down game 1.
All of that. I found out recently that Dave's just better than me, and that's making it a little bit harder for me to do this desk. Yeah, some of the concerns that I had for the Oni Warriors during P's and B's rear their head in that game. Target allocation needed to be perfect in every single team fight. So much single target damage as well as CC made it very difficult to line up against the slippery composition of the Valhalla Valkyries, and all that adds up to a perfect storm where, despite the game being even for so long, a team fight goes the way of the Valks, and maybe the game goes their way as well.
Well, a couple of the players who are here in studio, Kirmi and Benny Q, step up in a big way here this game. Miffo's our second look in the SPL at this Shiva, and was off to a good start, slowed down a little bit towards the middle of this game. But I think Kirmi, again showing a Shiva out of the jungle, gave us some good data points on what we can expect moving forward. And then Benny Q, on this Persephone myth, really took things over. A 9 KDA, 28,000 damage on Persephone. And there were a couple Grasp of Deaths that just like shot this a lot. This happened a lot. Like Neomon taking the Grasp of Death like on the jaw and then just immediately dying. I think it happens right here as well. Yeah. Blink in, belly flop in, and so Neo just really couldn't operate.
Yeah, Benny Q had a very easy time playing in the back of every single one of these team fights. It was rare an occasion where the Oni Warriors were able to close gap onto him, and in doing so, you can see it here yet again, some free casting from this Persephone.
That's a good
just to run amok in the entirety of some of these engagements. The Oni Warriors composition just not the best at creating the space to allow for that backline dive, and then allowing Benny Q on one of his best gods to free cast for the entirety of a match will line up for a 6-1 and 6 slash line. The Valhalla Valkyries come out with a plan, and I think it just lines up better. The compositions just were not compatible, unless you're a Valks fan, in which case the Valks love exactly how that went down.
Miff, how do you think you spell run amok? Run, obviously, R-U-N.
A-M-O-K.
All right, good. I want to keep you on your toes there, Miff. You're right, it is A-M-O-K.
I'm guessing out here.
No shot, that was a guess. You said that so confidently, I refuse to believe that it was just a guess. Benny Q, top damage in the game. Hear me, a nice 18,000 damage. That'll separate him from Cuvo Fred by about 7,000 damage or so. And, you know, I had a sneaky suspicion. I was talking to you about this in the green room while we were watching. I had kind of the sneaky suspicion, based on the way that dragon set for the Oni Warriors. In this set, far from over. It's a very Oni Warriors thing to then bounce back in game 2 and look like a completely different team. So you can't count the Oni Warriors out of this set in general. But there was just something about the way that dragon set looked for the Warriors where I actually thought that the Valkyries may come in with a slight edge, a slight advantage in my mind in this matchup. And game 1 looks like that. There are some fight back moments from the Warriors, but the Valkyries just too consistent, never had an answer for that Persephone. You kill Benny Q once in this game, not nearly enough. And so now this team, the Oni Warriors, really need to figure things out. And you know, this is extra impressive considering how when these two teams met during the SPL qualifier tournament, that set went. There was one game win by the then winner dogs, now Valkyries. But the Oni Warriors looked very comfortable in the rest of the 3 games that were played there in that set. And so the Valkyries coming out and, in some regards, dismantling the Warriors in game 1. Impressive. But again, it would be a very Warriors thing to then turn things around and look like a different team in game 2.
To speak to the previous set between the Oni Warriors and the Valhalla Valkyries, that was a version of the Valhalla Valkyries, then Winter Dogs, that had not been exposed overly so to the SPL style of meta.
True.
The Oni Warriors were consistently out-farming in the macro because the SPL simply farms better. But since then, we've seen that the Valhalla Valkyries have adapted very well. They're able to match some of that macro play. They're able to farm the map very effectively, and have since made it a lot more difficult for these teams to just by rote, just by nature of being SPL caliber, to simply pull ahead. Now, you have to meet the Valks on even footing.
What do you think, Miff? You want to watch another game of Valks vs. Warriors?
Yeah,
it sounds all right. Well, we got to start with picks and bans, so let's jump into that right now. Kabrakan. Knew we forgot the name there for a second. It's always Kabrakan, Cerberus, and Chernobog. Those 3 always get muddled up in my brain for some reason.
Charybdis I struggle with. I don't know what it is.
Right. Well, you don't have to worry about that one here today. Not for a little while. The Camazotz ends up being banned out as well, alongside the Kabrakan, Kleedna. A lot of C names getting banned out. What's going on here? And you're talking about Charybdis?
Yeah.
This is chaotic.
Okay. All right, just keep talking about the bans, bud.
All right, Shiva, thank God we've broken the trend of C's here. Shiva gets banned out. And how about that? That's respect from the Oni Warriors here after what Kirmi was able to do in Game 1, realizing they might not have an answer to another Shiva pick. Also shows that the Oni Warriors don't necessarily want to pick Shiva first, because if you leave Shiva open, TBD on if the Valkyries prioritize that pick first, and if it bounces back to the Oni Warriors with picks 2 and 3, that tells us the Oni Warriors weren't confident or didn't have it in one of their compositions to end up picking up the Shiva. And so Valkyries over in first pick now, Miff. I think this is a unique spot where we'll get a closer look at some of what they're prioritizing, but lots of initiation, lots of solo lane mines in some of the bans here. Jungle as well, and should leave the god pools of both mid laners and both hunters and maybe both supports a little bit more open.
Yeah, considering there are a couple of junglers that seem to be top of the meta selections. I'm thinking of the Gilgameshes of the world, maybe even the Erlong Shens to a certain extent, still available. We might see the Oni Warriors go ahead and just bypass a jungle ban, assuming that the Valkyries will take whoever it is that they prefer in that first slot. If we're going to talk about Kirmi's SEC pedigree, it was generally Erlong Shen more often than not. So potential that the Valkyries go there with their first pick selection. The Oni Warriors, though, thinking long and hard about their last ban. If I had to guess, and I don't, Persephone ban.
You've already been over this, Miff. You say if I had to guess, and then I don't, and then you guess anyway.
Yeah.
You're just setting yourself up for failure, I feel like. Did you see how focused Jordan looked, by the way, on that last...
I like that. I like what you're doing. You set it up. Because Jordan Focus, that's like his IGN, Adam and Smite.
Is that actually it?
It is. Jordan Focus is his IGN.
And he's in the player booth.
That's right.
Next to an empty chair. Must be his.
Focusing.
He's always... If there's ever a moment where he's not focusing, it's because he's out of his maxnomic chair. That's the only excuse. No, you're wrong, Miff. It's a Zeus ban.
Okay, you didn't want to say it.
But I did. It's the Zeus ban for the Oni Warriors instead of the Persephone ban. Of course, we expect Benny Q's pick to be left open towards the end here. Gilgamesh, that'll be pick number 1 for the Valhalla Valkyries. Such a strong pick. Right around 50% pick rate, 44% ban rate makes some sense to me, Miff. A handful of times this pick will get let through, but Gil clearly one of the most prioritized picks in the league.
He's just so versatile, man. You can be that early game aggressor, transition into just late game initiation / disruption factor in the team fight. The opportunity to straight up just get lucky and save yourself 600 gold from picking up an item, potentially upwards of like 1,300 if you get a great item from both of your quests. Worst case scenario, random infusions is about 350 gold if you decide to sell out on some of those items. So Gilgamesh has continually found himself at the top of the power rankings for some of these SPL teams. Similarly, I think Artio, worth a conversation. Not a single bad matchup for Artio in the solo lane. Has great sustain, phenomenal CC, and is just so difficult to lock down.
Has Artio really been banned 70% of the time and then picked another 10 or 20? That's wild to me. I feel like Artio has just flown under the radar. Maybe it's because like the gods that end up getting perma-banned, it just happens so frequently, you just kind of expect them to be there, and so
just
you don't
gloss over it.
Right, you don't talk about it all that much. I kind of forgot Artio was there, apparently, because 70% of the time we're seeing an Artio ban, but still very strong, and that's the style of pick.
Do not forget.
If you're the Oni Warriors, and you want to lean on Nika, you can hand him the Bastet, of course, and he'll snag you a pentakill like he did in qualifiers. Or you toss the Artio in that direction. You'll be an absolute mountain to deal with. Now, a near literal mountain to deal with is this Cthulhu. And how about this frontline, Miff? You got Gil, Gyamoja, Cthulhu for initiation if you're the Valkyries, and I'm hard-pressed to think of anything much better than those three.
Yeah, Nika's face was saying it all there, man. He is not pleased looking at what that 3-man core on the other side is. Winds of Shamash, Initiate, River's Rebuke, Descent into Madness, all just incredibly potent team fight tools in their own right, stacked on top of each other. Feels like that's going to be one of the strongest initiations you could get in a game of Smite. ESET locked in on the other side for the Oni Warriors. Going to bring you some flex potential. Could go into support, could go into mid, could go into jungle. More often than not at the SPL level, we do see it in that support role. Has very good aggressive tendencies, will lane very well
But this
with
is
this
Dardes.
Medusa. But it is Dardes and has a history of going towards mid. Regardless, you get to talk about circle protection. It is one of the best team fight tools around an objective as long as you have got the defensive positioning. Iset becomes so much weaker when she has to fight into a location. If the Valhalla Valkyries have already grouped up on a Gold Fury or a Fire Giant, using Circle Protection feels almost impossible unless you're tossing out for the instant burst of damage or instant burst of healing. Otherwise, if it's Iset there first, nothing is going to out-secure.
Yeah, I'm surprised. You know, Morgan has worked very... If this ends up being Iset mid for Dardez, I'm surprised Morgan wasn't looked at in this set, but...
Oh, there we go.
Iset could look good. What?
Well, now we know it's not support, is what I'm saying.
Oh. I thought you predicted the Khepri pick, and I just totally missed it.
Oh, yeah, I did. And you did.
And I did, yeah, perfect. You knew it would be a Khepri the entire time. So Khepri will be in support for Neoma. And at the early part of Game 1, that Bacchus looked great for Neo. And the ability to jump in and initiate was so strong, but then later in the game was just getting blown up by Benny Q. Now there is the unique ability here, still waiting on their jungler of the Oni Warriors. Benny Q has to reveal his pick before the jungler ends up getting selected by the Oni Warriors.
And he hates that.
And yeah, right. This is the worst ever, right? It's going to totally change his game plan around. But there's still a lot of options available. And how about the respect Benny's already getting? Zeus, Persephone, and Zhonghui all banned away. Iset
Suki
ends up getting picked away. And that's important to remember as well, where, you know, it's not only the mage tab with this guy. You know, it could be Tsukiyomi.
Sun Wukong
could
doesn't
be
look bad
something in
here.
the assassin tree. Could be something in the warrior tree. That's what Benny Key forces you to think about.
Yeah, there's a lot of his unorthodox picks still available. If he goes towards the Tsukiyomi, the only thing he has to concern himself with is this Iset on the other
Or it'll
side.
be the most standard mage there is.
Just bread and butter mid laner, man. I had this whole 36-page PowerPoint lined up on why Tsukiyomi and Sun Wukong would have looked good here, but instead the unorthodox selection will go over to that Hunter role. Unorthodox in that we don't see Cupid often. Orthodox in that it is one of WoW's favorite selections ever since he had that run in the SPL under Obey, was always locking in Cupid as well. Gonna bring you a little bit of sustain in the team fight. You are not lacking for sustain on the Valhalla Valkyries between Cthulhu and the Descent into Madness, Yamoja constantly, and now Cupid as well. Gotta think there's gonna be a fair deal of anti-heal for the Oni Warriors. Similarly though, the Oni Warriors have got a good deal of in-combat healing thanks to that Ardio, as well as potentially some in-combat healing with Circle Protection. I like both of these drafts. I am concerned for this Khepri, and I've gone on record saying I think Khepri fits into every single composition, and I'm not going to back away from that because being able to revive an ally is just that potent a tool.
Right.
But the majority of the team fight presence of the Valhalla Valkyries is going to be an even spread of damage. Cthulhu, multi-target, tons of poke potential. Gilgamesh, generally going to be looking towards one guy, but Winds of Shamash plus Leap Forward means that you are probably locking down a couple members. Cupid with the AoE ultimate. Merlin generally just tossing out massive bits of AoE poke. Could be difficult for this Khepri to choose who he's going to use that Scarab's Blessing on.
All right, big circles are there for the Valhalla Valkyries. I think, speaking of circles, I think Hugo Fred needs to have a big game here for the Oni Warriors to turn this set around, because the initiation factor of the Tunbats myth might be the most important of what the Oni Warriors have. Of course, you can dash in with an Ardio, you can root and abduct with Khepri. There's some lockdown with Iset. But it feels like that big initiation is going to be coming from Cubo Fred. And so it feels like the jungler really needs to step up.
Yeah, he's going to be the most consistent beads burner for his team as well. Who else is going to do it all the time? Sure, Ardio can move up and find generally one or two people with a stun, but it's relatively short duration. You're not too concerned about that one. Petrify being conditional CC. Iset might be able to burn some beads, but it's generally going to be single target. So in a team fight, in these late game engagements around the Fire Giant, around the Gold Fury, it really is up to Cubo Fred with this Hun bots to blink in and connect with at least 3 members on that Fear No Evil. And then from there, you can start using some of the single target CC to optimize on that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I like it for him, and it's a pick that he's very capable of playing, but it is slow. Hunbots is not picked for the early game, so I think you're going to put some weight onto this E-set to carry at least that mid 3v3.
And I like the way you described that there, Miff. You have the ability to jump in, shred off the beads with the Fear No Evil, and then some of those single instances of CC can group up and lock down those targets a little bit more effectively. I still just can't get past the Gilgamesh, Yamoja, Cthulhu frontline that the Valhalla Valkyries have. Will the Valkyries find their first win this year in the SPL, or will the Oni Warriors push us to 3? We will go into game number 2 to find out.
Gonna be a big game here between these two teams. The Valks want to close this one out in 2, but the Warriors have been known to take us to a 3rd game in most of the sets that they've played up here. Game number 2, it's J-Mac Trelli and Rosie one more time. Benny Q on another traditional mage going through here, but he's going up against Dardes on E-set, something that we don't see very often. And also, thanks for the little highlight there, Eye of the Jungle E-set at that.
Yeah, just going for a little extra tank stats for the late game, I think. We've seen this a few times on things like Zeus, where you want to just try to survive on these picks because they're a little bit immobile. But honestly, with Dardes on the E set, I think the double flat pen starter, at least one flat pen item, at least it looks to be the beginning of this build, should be the focus of right now. And then looking on the other side, Neoma opting to go for a shell here, so no form of beads if you are going to get CC'd or locked down. Where on the other side, Gamma does get a bead, so putting a little bit of respect on the Cuvo Fred, that Hoonbots.
Between Cuvo, Dardes, Neil, there's plenty of CC that anybody on the Valk should be worried about. Aqua, the only one not going beats for the Valhalla Valkyries here. But that shell, most likely, that Phantom shell that's going to be coming up, is something that gets talked about a lot now with Yamoja. A lot of damage thrown out here towards the mid lane, a lot of action, but nothing to be had, at least as of now.
Looking over at Vote here, going for the Gilded Arrow into Dev Gauntlets on the Medusa. I mean, could also be a Bloodforge. We've seen that a few times. But either way, not opting to go for the tried and true Crusher build that we usually see out of Medusa. So a little bit less early pressure, but a little bit more sustain in that regard, and some gold.
We saw this out of Zapman earlier today, where he went for Devourer's Gauntlet into, was it Atalanta's Bow, Silver Branch, and then some crit after there. So maybe could be the route that Vote decides to go here on this Medusa, but we'll have to wait and see where that finishes out. The Gilded Arrow, though, is probably the most interesting one out of all those ones, typically only reserved for the more magical hunter-centered gods, like the Oleron, the Souls.
Yeah, I think just trying to get that crit online late game, as well as just making sure your farm stays pretty tried and true, is going to make sense here for the Medusa. But again, you get so much use out of that Crusher. I know you do end up selling it late game, so maybe that's the whole reason Vote just wants to say, hey, I'm going to get my build online ASAP. I'm going to get a little bit of gold in the process, and then late game, still, I will be a Medusa no matter what. But then you have to look at this solo matchup once again. Pretty similar builds here, actually exactly the same. No one going for a Chalice or anything. So the old Vamp Shroud into either a Stone of Binding or a Void Stone is the usual build we see here. I don't think there's going to be too much edge in a Cthulhu versus RDO matchup unless one of these junglers shows up, obviously. Neither one does have the bead, so ganks could be coming.
There's a little bit of contest over there for those right side mid-heartbeat camps. Gamma will use the Riptide. He gets pulled right back in by Neil after Vote goes in aggressive, and First Blood goes over to the Warriors, but wow, he found a stun up against Neil. Needs a couple more basics, but Vote is already there for the body blocks. Wow, he cannot close out that kill, and it's the Warriors who strike first.
I gotta say, I'm really surprised that Gamma didn't opt to beads that. I mean, right after the Riptide, you just pre-beads the Abduct, and I'm pretty sure you're fine there. Maybe just assuming there wasn't that much damage, but you gotta remember, this is a Medusa. I mean, arguably the best early damage hunter bar, maybe, I don't know, in Uller, depending on how much damage you really have, but still, just so much early aggression from this Medusa. And obviously, First Blood on Vote is going to go a long way here. Wowie already did not have a fun time in lane last game. He wasn't dying so much as he just really couldn't step up. This time around, going to have to deal with a relatively fed Medusa in this lane.
Yeah, it's not the easiest to fight into a Medusa either, especially once that Petrify comes up. Wowie with that ultimate, a lot of times when you talk about Cupid, you typically want to play them into less mobile teams or even more mobile teams here, but less CC immunity to be able to pop themselves out. Though we'll have a nice matchup against that Fields of Love. Only will have to expend a Petrify to get out of there compared to some of the other gods out on the field. But the Valkyries, even losing that First Blood, though, they're still down 1,000 gold. Only Warriors have been able to find some extra farm on the map besides just that First Blood.
Yeah, Cubo is coming to the mid lane, though. Benny Q might have to worry about his beads a little bit, but I'm looking around, and I see that Kirmi will be joining in this mid lane. No real fighting just yet. It doesn't look like the mid 3v3 will be happening, as these supports are still in the duo lane for a little longer, but Gamma might try to show some face here. Does not have the ultimate available, still level 4.
Drop kick out of Kirmi just here at the wave, or at the mid camps, I should say. But those are about to change into the enhanced ones here as the obelisk is spawning in. All the camps will now refresh themselves, and we have a battle over these camps here. Stunned by Gamma will only find Dardas. Not level 5 quite yet on these supports, so that River's Rebuke will not be available to Gamma to utilize here. And it seems that Kirmi does not want to continue this battle. The first 2 offerings will go the way of the Warriors.
It does look like the solo laners are both going for that Stone of Binding here, so not really worrying about the Void Stone just yet, just trying to get that extra penetration for their CC, things like that. As Neilma sort of looking over here towards Wowie. More so just trying to take over to level 5, wanting that Scarab's Blessing online ASAP. I don't think there's any gank potential here with the Fields of Love up for Cupid, so Wowie's going to be sitting just fine in that lane. Still isn't backed either. Obviously, Vote is stacking dev gauntlets as we speak, whereas Wowie, he's got a lot of sustain in this kit. He has the bees, so he can just heal up whenever he needs.
Yeah, those hearts will be able to keep Wowie alive there over on that left side. The Death Toll also giving him a nice little bit of extra sustain. But that first blood bounty really helping out Vote and being able to expedite to get those Devourer's Gauntlets online. Over towards the mid, now that Gamma does have that ultimate online, next fight around these mid camps could actually potentially spill some blood here.
Is on the bee skin, the honey. It's honey, right, when he gives you the hearts?
I think they are little honeycombs.
Yeah, because me and Gore were talking about the beans, so whenever it's the skin, we don't say the hearts. We have to make sure that this time it's the honey. Yeah, this time it's the honey. So we'll have that honey to sustain himself in lane if Wowie does get a little bit over aggressive. But anyways, the Dev Gauntlets is online, so the stacks are going to continuously be coming from Vote, and the power spike is not going to stop until Wowie does go back. So the sustain, sure, is keeping you in lane, but also you're not getting any stronger.
That's my mistake, disrespecting the real B here, Cupid the real MLGB out of all of these players here. But back into it here, Gamma and Kirimi, they'll go ahead and take this Greater Scorpion. That'll get those buff camps up, unless, okay, maybe thought that Spirit Ball had it. A little bit shy out of Dardes, but no fear out of the Valhalla Valkyries. They'll still sit down that 1K gold from earlier, so not much has changed since the first blood. The Warriors haven't been able to really get any extra farm across the map just yet.
Yeah, looking like a small gold lead, just about 900, and the XP even smaller than that, so pretty even playing field at the moment. Really just Vote seeing that lead right now, but it looks like there could be a little brawl over these mid camps as Gamma does get abducted into the River's Rebuke.
Ultimate comes out from the support, and this is what we were talking about earlier, but no follow-up on the side of the Valks. Kirimi was more interested in trying to get these camps, but he's not going to get any of them. Both of those go his way. Kirimi hit with the Petrify, but it's not enough damage out of Vote. Kirimi drops the Winds of Shamash, and we'll try and find a way out of here. Cuvo Fred will loop around and find him. Fear no evil, and an overhead smash will take down the jungler.
Cuvo's getting real hyped up in the booth now, so we're going to see some sparks flying. Hopefully another kill, this time for the jungle. Looks like Wowie might be in some trouble here. Cuvo does not have much mana, though. I think he's still a little bit hyped up after finding Kirimi lazy backing there behind the mid camps. I mean, it wasn't really a lazy back. He really didn't have anywhere else to go because there was no blink available. So I think he was just saying, like, maybe I try to sneak out here. But either way, I'm just looking over at that solo lane. Looks like a slap fight. No one really showing any face. Both level 9. Both going the same sort of build. Have a Chalice online. So I don't think Aqua and Nika are having too much fun. They're sort of just poking each other out as you do.
They are doing the most typical Guardian solo thing, which is, hey, can I hit you with an ability? All right, cool. Hey, you want to hit me with an ability? All right, cool. Oh, we both got Vamp Shroud? Ah, this is easy money. We'll just heal up and never die over here in towards that solo lane, especially the fact they both also have a healing chalice there. So neither of them are going to be too worried until somebody from one of these teams rotates over to try and kill him. And even at that point, won't be the easiest time killing an Ardio or killing a Cthulhu.
Yeah, looking a small lead at the moment for Nika, and I'm assuming it's just because Aqua hasn't fully cleared the wave yet. Nope. Yeah, it does even out there, so they literally are just pretty much similar at this point. Look at the Totem of Kuz, though. Is it dead even? It looks like it is. So both of them have really just been trading back and forth, as you were mentioning. But now I'm looking at the mid lane build. Dardes obviously is going into that Void Stone. We mentioned the Eye of the Jungle already. Late game, trying to have a little bit of tank stats here. This is going to help out when you're trying to survive that River's Rebuke, trying to survive that Descent into Madness, and especially Benny Q's damage right now.
It does have Divine Rune for himself. Conduit Gem, the startup here for the Merlin. A very typical start on these Merlins. You either go with that or more often the Sands of Time. You get a little bit of extra CDR into your build for those stance switches to come online just a little bit quicker here. We'll see if it ends up being a Chronos Pendant on Benny Q. Big Spirit Ball over the wall there by Dardas will put about half of Benny Q's health in the coffins there. But Void Stone, as you were saying, by Dardas, just a little bit of gold away from being finished up. Kirimi with his passive, able to pick up a tier 1 cloak. Not the worst item of a tier 1 to be able to grab there.
Yeah, I always like doing a little check here. As we look at the only Warriors who are pulling this Gold Fairy, Wowie is here.
But Wowie probably won't be able to get anywhere there. Neil doing a good job of zoning out, and with the help of an ESET ultimate, always talked about as one of the best confirmations in the game of Smite. That one will be enough to take the Gold Fury. Oni Warriors sneaking away an objective from the Valks.
Looks like Gamma might be trying to find a Riptide here on to vote, but even though the objective went down, it doesn't look like anyone is going to overcommit, but they might be looking for a kill on a Benny.
And he gets hit by the Fear No Evil to push himself right out of that tower. Nice positioning by Cuvo and Neil there specifically to make sure that Benny has absolutely nowhere to go on the team fight. Now with a red buff up, the Oni Warriors can go for a nice invade here. Gamma will have to do a lot of work to try and save that red buff, but he won't be able to do much of anything as Neil, once again, ever present on the front line.
Yeah, it really seems like Neil and Cuvo always in the right positioning right now. These Fear No Evils have been pretty clutch, and making sure to get Benny Q's beads before the ult even goes down is going to ensure that one. But now it really just depends. There is a Pyromancer about to be spawning in about 10 seconds here, and we'll decide, will anyone try to put some pressure into it? Gamma sort of is roaming around right now trying to get vision. I think recognizing that, hey, there might be some pressure being put into this Pyromancer soon. Obviously, they already got the Gold Fury, so we got to make sure this Goldie doesn't get too far out of control here.
Wowie still down a little bit to Vote, despite mostly because of the kill that Vote got in the early game. That XP has been able to keep him up and ahead. But we had that problem in the duo lane game number 1. Wowie never really got ahead. He was pretty much behind the entirety of the game, despite not having any deaths to his name as far as the early game was concerned here. So we'll look towards the late game, at least for Wowie. But that late game is getting a little bit further away here for the Valkyries. I mean, we're looking at a 3,000 gold lead now out of the Oni Warriors with these 3 kills. They have been able to stack these up. A lot of that thanks to the help of that Gold Fury.
Yeah, it seems like not only is the XP and gold pretty much stagnant, but the team fight presence is all but went to the Oni Warriors here. The Valks not really wanting to engage, trying to just sit there and get their farm, but Cuvo, as I mentioned, has been trying to find kills wherever he can, and of course the early kill for Vote, again, pretty much facilitated by Neil Ma alone. So just trying to find these aggressive plucks, these CCs, making sure to burn these beads. That is the name of the game for the Oni Warriors. Dardez sitting pretty as well, does have a 1 level lead and already has that second relic, where Benny has no second relic and no beads. So I wouldn't be too surprised if I saw Cuvo Fred looking towards mid lane one more time before those beads come up.
Oh, Kimry sold the cloak. What the heck, man? You could have just kept that one. Maybe you just needed a little bit of extra gold to get that Brawler's beat stick online. No, I didn't think that was the worst item to have here. Fear No Evil onto Kirmi will force the beads out of the jungler of the Valkyries. But Kirmi will make it out with his life here, as long as Neil doesn't have too much follow-up after a potential abduct. Now that Benny Q is here, should be a nice and breezy way out for Cuvo to make it through here. Red buff invaded and stolen away here by the Oni Warriors. Gamma not quite enough damage on the Shimoji to secure that buff.
But look at these rotations. You're seeing that even Vote was heading over to that red buff, and Nika was sort of prioritizing getting over there as well, just for a simple red buff invade, as the blue buff is going to be taken by Aquarius. You're just seeing the whole team play together as a unit. Even though the Oni Warriors are so far ahead, they're not playing selfishly. They're making these rotations to help out the squad. They don't want to drop even a little bit of farm right now, as we just saw Nika blinking in to try to steal that blue buff away.
Yeah, Nika making a power play. It's like, I probably won't be able to steal this blue, but I'm just going to go ahead and dive in there anyways. Well, I mean, what's the worst that happens? He's finding if it's Kirmi, knew this not going to have much follow-up beyond there. Aquarius not willing to pop an ultimate to try and kill an Ardio at this stage. Pyromancer, though, is on the menu for the Oni Warriors. They'll gobble that one up pretty quickly and add another little pocket of gold to their accounts. Nearly 3,500, close to 4,000 up here for the Oni Warriors. 12 minutes in the game, the largest lead that we have seen out of these two teams. Gamma just off the mark with finding Dardez on that ultimate. That's got to feel bad. You caught him right on the edge of that wall.
Yeah, you really hate to see the Rivers Rebukes missing. It wasn't even one of those situations where you sort of walk through the wall right at the last second. That really was just an unfortunate timing where Dardez sort of caught out the gank before it even happened here. Level 14 as Cuvo. It's a big monkey. Might try to go in here. I don't think he wants to dive the tower just yet, despite having this lead. Again, Benny does have the beads available, so it would have been questionable. The Oni Fury is about to spawn as well. Really don't want to try risking your life right before this huge objective here. This could be a big swing for the Valks to get back into the game, or on the opposite side, it could cement the Oni Warriors on just a massive lead going into the later stages of the game. So not wanting to throw before that.
Dardez and a Fear No Evil out of Cuvo. Fred will get the Aegis and then a late beads out of Benny Q. So Benny will make it out of this team fight despite all the CC and damage thrown his way. But those are 2 hefty relics now down for the mid laner. Kirmi will make sure to secure the red this time around, because the last 2 team fights that the Warriors have started have always resulted in them getting the red. Maybe Gamma can find a way out with the help of Aquarius. He gets stunned as soon as he dashes in. Fields of Love come down, but Gamma is already gone. Vote gets kicked against the wall. Both relics now down for the Hunter, but that circle of protection is keeping them alive in the backside for the Oni Warriors. BennyQ goes down to the damage of Nika. Aquarius is not enough to save him.
I'm looking at Wowie's build and just does not have any damage online. Aqua is in a little bit of danger here as Kirmi might have to run out as well. Does use the blink, but they're going to keep chasing this.
Nika blinks and gets the kill under the Phoenix, and Kirmi, level 12, is now just being decimated by the damage from Nika and Vote. Not able to find the kill on Kirmi this time, but the Valkyries still come up with 2 massive picks.
Yeah, just look at the build difference from Vote and Wowie. I mean, there's just way too much damage here on the line for this Medusa. Now, if the Oni Fury is up, that is going to be shredded down as the right side of the map has a bit of farm that the Valhalla Valkyries won. They are not on the board yet, though, so they're really not trying to contest anything. As I mentioned, they really are not looking for these engages. They want to try to get as much farm as they can for free, and if it's contested farm, they're going to say, hey, we'll go somewhere else, man. Don't worry about it. You guys can have it.
Kirmi down 2 levels, Wowie down 2 levels as well here between these 2 players in their respective roles. 6,500 gold and over 7,000 XP that the Oni Warriors have amassed here in just 15 minutes of play up against the Valkyries. Completely different look from the Warriors than we saw in game number 1. It was a fairly close matchup to start out game 1, and the Valkyries at the late game were able to pull themselves back in. But very similar here. I mean, the late game is still a good distance away from the Valks, especially when they're sitting at deficits like this.
Yeah, the Oni minions are being cleared out right now, so shouldn't be resulting in any sort of structures being taken down. The towers are safe for now, at the very least, as we see a 3-man grouping towards this red buff, and it looks like Cubo is not afraid at all to front run this invade. Red buff will go down with no flack from the Valhalla Valkyries. They don't want to really show face here.
I mean, this is just what the Warriors love doing during Phase 3 last season, is they start a fight in mid, win or lose, we're going to the red buff. But so far, it's been nothing but wins in their fights, whether it be getting kills or getting relics. They're going to try and start with BennyQ here. He gets pulled back in, and the walls will not save him. Kirmi a little too late on that rotation to save the mid laner. It's Cubo. Fred credit to that kill, but now that Aqua is here and Neilma in the back line, tower tanked up by Nika should mean that the Lobster can make his way out of that. The Oni Warriors will come out unscathed in the fight.
We have still seen no usage of the Scarab's Blessing. There hasn't had to been one. I mean, 0 kills and 0 revives because no one's HP bar has dropped that far. The tier 1 tower is going to go down here as they're looking for another kill on the Gamma.
Gamma goes down instantly. Kirmi to the back line, tries to find Vote, but will not grab anything there. It's the 1v1 of Wowie versus Dardes, but Dardes has a big ult. Now that Kirmi has joined the fight, Dardes is low, but not going to be low enough. The Scarab's Blessing for the first time used to help out Cubo Fred, but Wowie is hoping and wishing that he had one of his own because he will fall to Nika.
It looks like no one still is going to fall from the Oni Warriors. Just superior team fight presence. Their builds are too far ahead. They're grouping so well. They're not going to go for this Pyromancer that's about to spawn. It's not up yet, so they are going to retreat and spend some of that gold from the fight that they just won. But, I mean, can the Valhalla Valkyries even show face for a Fire Giant or a Pyromancer? It's going to be so difficult. We haven't really seen any push back from them at this point. As I mentioned, the Scarab's Blessing was just huge there, and I don't even know if they really needed it at that point. It's just dominant performance from the Warriors right now.
I'm not sure if it even actually popped when it was on Cubo. I just looked up and I see it around his waist at that point there. So our first instance of Scarab's Blessing this game, and it took 17 minutes for the Valkyries to burn that one away from Neil. Doing a relic roundup here. Still a lot of relics up for the Valkyries after that team fight. About half of them down or more on the side of the Warriors. A couple of sets of beads, an Aegis, and a Frenzy. So Fire Giant still available if the Warriors wish to go to it, especially the fact that Neil does have that Frenzy online.
Yeah, but looking at where Vote is, probably not on the table just yet. It's just going to be a Pyromancer as Q-Vote does start it up. Vote, level 18 right now, so just sort of farming up on this left side of the map. I imagine at level 20 or even after, the Silver Branch was completely finished there, so they have the damage if they really want to try to burn through this objective. But I don't think they're going to make the rotation just yet. Vote has a little bit more farm to get before he really wants to commit to it. So they are just going to go back to the old farm game. Back to the 1v1 status where Wowie is 3 levels down. Looking at the mid, Benny's only 1 level down, but the jungle also 3 levels down for the Oni Warriors.
Talking about Benny too, look at the player damage charts. Bottom here for BennyQ on this Merlin. Big drop kick against Vote. Over in the lane, use that Petrify to get away, but a River's Rebuke will catch Vote out. And Gamma will try and zone him through. Scare's Blessing will keep Vote going for the time being. It'll finally pop back. And the first big usage there. Kirmi will dash under Cubo Fred, jump over the top of his head, but will not heal back up. It's Wowie and Kirmi going down. Gamma short to follow after. Now that Nika has joined the fray, they'll chase down this Umoja, and Gamma has nowhere to go. The Riptide only delaying the inevitable. It's a double for Cubo.
Man, that one was hard to watch. The Valks really thought about that gank there. And of course, the Oni Warriors could have just let Vote die. But they said, you know what? No, let's all group up here. Make sure to save this. Even though Vote was against, what, 3 or 4 of them caught in the River's Rebuke. Had no more relics available at that point. But Scarab's Blessing comes in clutch for the first time. I mean, really the second time, but the real actual revive for the first time. And now it looks like the Fire Giant will be pulled.
Benny Q transforms over into Ice Dance to slow down Nico, but there's not much slowing this RDO down at all. It's going to be a flicker from the mid lane to get themselves away. Meanwhile, Fire Giant, well under half health already. Oni Warriors were using Nika as a distraction in the mid lane to take yet another objective. Oni Warriors will grab the FG just shy of 20 minutes.
Cubo Fred, though, still in left lane right now, stealing up some obelisks. I'm surprised we don't see anyone from the Valks going over there, because you have to recognize there's 4 on FG, and the Soonbats is by himself. Now the rotation is here, but he's just going to leap over the wall into safety. Gold Fury is up, and I'm looking at these tier 2 towers, still 3 alive at the moment. And of course, the question is, are you feeling so confident with your lead, because it's well over 10K at this point, that you just go for 1 tier 2 tower and then go for the gold? Or are you just going to, I think at this point you probably want all the towers, but are you confident enough to go for that Phoenix just off, even though there's 2 towers up?
That is the question here for the Oni Warriors. Do they commit to one side at a time? Do they strip all these towers away from the Valkyries and add nearly another 5,000 gold to their pockets with all of that? Maybe they just go ahead and start with the gold. It won't seem to be the case here, as the Oni Warriors will walk up the left side. Gamma will spot them out as they walk across a ward, and being the Oni Warriors. But if you're the Valkyries, even down this 10,000 gold, Charlie, where's the silver lining for the Valkyries on some of these bigger defenses?
I mean, you want me to find a silver lining from this gold lead? That's going to be tough. You have Benny Q with Obsidian Shard, so you have some, some Prod Shred on to tank your targets. Aquarius, he's got some tank stats online. It's gonna be hard, J-Mac. I could see an avenue where maybe the Phoenix goes down and they tank for too long. I guess that's your silver lining. You have what's essentially a 6v5 if you're 5v funding underneath the Phoenix. So that's your best option, making someone tank Phoenix for way too long, because right now the gold lead is just massively in favor of the Warriors.
And Warriors will continue to extend that. Tier 2 goes down, but who cares about the Phoenix? Aqua wants the fight now. He'll find 2 with the knockup, but not get a whole lot of damage. River's Rebuke will lock 2 in place. Vote comes back into the midst of the fray. He's down to half, but Kirmi is down to none. He's already out. Dardes under fire. The shell will keep him up, and so will the Scarab's Blessing. Dardes will not go away just yet. Benny Q trying to find a fight in the midst of all of it, but it's only Benny Q left alive against 4 of the Warriors. No chance that Dardes goes down. It's a full-on deicide,
No one
and
died.
the Oni Warriors can walk right in and take game 2.
I mean, I understand Aquarius is saying, hey, we need to fight right now because this is our best option. This is the closest the fight will ever be. But they weren't able to kill a single member of the Valkyries. And even when they had someone close, Neil's always there with that Scarab's Blessing. I see why this gets banned away so much. And I don't think they can give it back to him again, because not even 1 kill went through for the Valks.
Yeah, this is not a support-specific god any longer. This is no longer the, well, Genetics is playing, we gotta ban Khepri. Oh, Neil is playing, we gotta ban Khepri. This is just, Khepri is just annoying. We saw only 1 actual revive with that Scarab's Blessing throughout the game. And what was it, 17 minutes before we ever saw it even used?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not just the revive, it's almost the threat of the revive. Can we fight this? They've got Kepriel. Can we CC this? Oh, they have Kepriel. So it's a lot of different gameplay mechanics you have to go through in your head before engaging these fights. And again, the Valks weren't able to find a single kill that time. 1-1 at the moment.
A decisive Game 2 victory here for the Oni Warriors. We'll take a break and come back to the desk to break that one down right after.
Tonight I'm gonna feel alive. shop. We're about to pop. Whatever I do, not up to you. We're gonna shut it up. La la la. Let's stop, won't stop. Unlock your shop. Whatever you do, not up to you. We're gonna shut it up. Today I found out what I want. It's everything you never had. It's been a lifetime feeling sad, feeling sorry for the things that might make you mad. But I'm back, who's back? You went in and sorry. All you do is make people around you damn worried. I know it might sound just a little bit corny. Now I know where I stand. Don't even have a plan. Unlock your shop. We're about to pop. Whatever I do, not up to you. We're gonna shut it up. Let's stop, won't stop. Unlock your shop. Whatever you do, not up to you. We're gonna shut it up. Just like you'll be someone's too. It's time for you. Just do whatever you want. Unlock your shop. We're about to pop. Whatever I do, not up to you. We're gonna shut it up. Let's stop, won't stop. Unlock your shop. Whatever you do, not up to you. We're gonna shut it up.
Anything more than this, it would be to push my luck. I guess it's in my nature to give up, I don't give up. It's not an ordinary fever. There is a kind that never ends. I was scared to hold on. You had already let go. I went too long and let it happen, baby. Sometimes you just need a friend. I was put alone with feeling, and maybe in time you will understand. I was not what you wanted. You were trapped in someday. I kept your motor running, and no one saw it coming. Peace and heartache. Peace and heartache. How can you go on like this, knowing what you know now? Just another sign I've missed. No time to apologize. But nobody wants to be human anymore. Yet nobody wants to be alone. In the blink of an eye, and you're caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. I went too long and let it happen, baby. Sometimes you just need a friend. I was put alone with feeling, and maybe in time you will
On to game 3 we go after the Oni Warriors do indeed regroup and bounce back here. Game number 2, convincing. It's funny how away things work out, isn't it? I talk about how the Oni Warriors have a sneaky way of turning around their sets and looking like a totally different team in game 2 after a game 1 loss. It's exactly what happens here. The Valhalla Valkyries blanked in kills. The Oni Warriors come out strong. And Miff, I am absolutely right.
Those games are hard to break down, Dave, because nothing goes right for the Valhalla Valkyries. So I guess my only line of defense here, my only winning line, is to agree with you. You are always right.
No, I didn't say I'm always right. I said I am right.
Always.
I mean, sure. If you want to say I'm always right, that works too. The action started early over in the duo lane, a couple of minutes into this game. It shows you I said, maybe Neil falls off a little bit in aggressiveness with the Khepri over to the Bacchus. That's a fallacy. I stand corrected. In pre-game, we mentioned Cuvo Fred on this Hunbats pick really needed to step up, Myth, and I think the post-game stats will speak for themselves, where the Fear No Evils, whether it was onto one target or multiple, were finding the initiations that the Oni Warriors needed, and the rest of the team was able to rally around Nika and the other initiators, and this is a back-to-the-drawing-board style game for the Valhalla Valkyries.
Yeah, the Valhalla Valkyries will do best by erasing this one from their minds, pretend it didn't happen, or at least learn the lesson of, hey, maybe there's some picks we need to address in the next ban phase, and figure out whether or not that's how they can start to improve on what we've seen here. But the Oni Warriors just dominate in this match. Early rotations from Nika. Cuvo Fred got involved early, which is not necessarily a strength of Hunbots. He's not exactly a early game selection. I would argue levels 1 through 10, or 5 through 10 rather, you're just an ultimate bot, and eventually you start to get some of that DPS available. Cuvo Fred made it look good the second Fear No Evil became available. I had expressed some concerns with Neilma's ability to find impactful revives in these AoE style team fights once the Valks draft was grouped up as 5. Fortunately for the Oni Warriors, the Valks, once were grouped up as 5, were already 8, 9, 10,000 gold down, so it didn't super matter.
Absurd game for the Oni Warriors. A desert of kills for the Valhalla Valkyries, just trying to crawl from one oasis to the next, searching for a kill here in this desert of a game number 2.
You said desert like 3 times.
What?
You said desert like 3 times.
Or did I say dessert?
No, you said desert, because dessert would not make sense.
Either does desert, really. I don't think my metaphor made much sense either. But I'm sticking with it, Mifflin.
Wait, what was it? What was the oasis in that metaphor?
A kill happening. They were in a desert of kills. There were no kills.
It sounds like they were in a water resort. All right, there was a lot of kills.
No, I'm saying the Valkyries were in a desert.
Okay, they just never found.
And they were crawling looking for an oasis.
And they never got.
And they
to
were
one.
looking in all the wrong places
Understood.
and doing all the wrong things. And there was no water to be found in the desert.
Okay.
And so now it works, right? Now that I had to explain it, Myth. Thanks. The Oni Warriors send us on to a game number 3. Valhalla Valkyries. What do you change in P's and B's for game number 3? We'll see in just a second as picks and bans for game number 3 roll through. Valhalla Valkyries in that first pick slot. Oni Warriors over in second pick. And how about the respect? That's the word I'm looking for. To Neil
How about the
Meyer.
desert?
That's all I've got on my mind. All I can think of is a desert. How about the respect towards Neoma and Dardas? We're going to take away the Khepri and the E-set after the game 2 that they put on.
Yeah, that's. I guess one answer is to remove some of those pieces. I wouldn't argue that those are the 2 selections that made that early game go so poorly for the Valhalla Valkyries, but it will make it a little bit easier for them to prevent objectives from going down, namely around this E-set. We saw the Oni Warriors very easily able to leverage Circle Protection towards some of these Gold Furies and Pyromancers throughout the course of Game 2, and now will no longer have that opportunity available to them. And now looking at the bans, only 1 left available. Still a lot of frontliners. High priority frontliners on the table. The Gilgameshes, the Erlong Shens, you've even got the Emojas out there. RDO still available as well. A pick that goes very well for Nika. Wouldn't be surprised if the Valks take that one for themselves. But the Oni Warriors going to keep us on our toes as they try and figure out what that last band's going to be. This time I'm going to say Zeus. Oh!
And it also wasn't Persephone.
Okay.
Mifflin is in a desert of pick predictions.
I cannot find an oasis of correct answer.
Looking for one correct answer as far as the third.
Not a Zeus pick, though.
Not a Zeus pick either. There is a Z in that name, and it's at the very end. Campus
This shall be a day
first
long
pick here for the
Zeus here.
Valhalla Valkyries. No, if this is a Zeus, all your past failures get wiped away.
Uh-huh.
And your $50,000 of debt that you still owe
Well, I already
Twitch
paid
gets
that
wiped
out.
away.
They can refund me.
Medusa, unlucky for you.
My God.
Bologna plus Medusa.
Surely
Although you didn't
Zeus.
predict it, maybe should be predictable because of how strong those two picks are.
Yeah, Medusa, one of the best aggressive early game hunters, as well as just great transition into the late game. A phenomenal team fight ultimate in Petrify. Bologna has just been rising through the power rankings thanks to this Berserker Shield, Death's Toll, Frostbound Hammer style of build. Shogun's Kusari somewhere in there as well. Really makes her a big mainstay force in some of these late game team fights. We're going to see a Zeus here. Either in this pick, the next pick, or the next ban phase,
Oh my
but
God.
no later.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the Valkyries' next 5 sets. So they've gone to 3 games against the Scarabs. They're going to go to 3 games against the Oni Warriors. The remaining 5 teams for them to play are the Titans, the Bolts, the Dragons, the Leviathans, and the Kings down the stretch. So
That's an easy lineup for them.
yeah, I mean that's casual for the Valkyries. At worst, it's casual. At best, it's easy. But I don't think it's going to be either of those two things. Valkyries get some of the maybe their closer matchups out of the way early, and then some more difficult
can't
ones down
believe
the
it.
stretch. What can't you believe here, man?
Dude, Zeus has been getting banned like literally every game. You got to think it's for a reason. Like these teams want that pick.
Maybe. But we've also but you also have picks who are like they have a 95% pick ban rate, right? So obviously 5% of the time those picks are just
You're right.
kind of glossed
This
over.
is a 5%er right
This
here.
might be a 5%er for
Let's go.
There you go. Finally,
I knew
it rolls
it.
on through. 64% ban rate on the Zeus. So 2/3 of the time or so, Myth.
Yeah, you
Zeus
just
is getting
picked
banned.
the other times.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if it's 100. There's no way Zeus is 100% pick ban. If Gore were here, he would let us know.
God, I miss him.
Don't you? Every day. Oni Warriors, Medusa, Bologna, as we've already mentioned. Then the Morgan. And this is what I was talking about in drafts, or in picks and bans, rather, for game number 2. Thinking about putting Dardez on something that we know he can perform on in the games, not just the sets, but the games that the Warriors have won already here in Season 9. Morgan has been a couple of them. And so, Myth, I think Morgan is a strong pick here, and already a couple of strong transformation options, Camazotz and Amaterasu, both on the other side. Bologna, of course, there as well, but I think Morgan might fit pretty well here for the Warriors.
Yeah, generally we will see transformations into that Camazotz, Bat Out of Hell, just such a great disengage or chase down tool, just very versatile in the application of that ability, and then otherwise, considering Camazotz will likely be going into the jungle, won't be the tankiest Camazotz transformation, but will have a good deal of damage output available to it, assuming that it is Amaterasu in the soul lane. We have seen Amaterasu in support once, I believe, inbound, taking that pick for himself, so maybe some flex potential here for the Valhalla Valkyries as the ban phase rounds out. The Oni Warriors continually target out Benny Q, so we're going to have to wait and see for the Valkyries mid lane selection. I think, you know, I tried to go in towards how Warriors and Assassins might look good for Benny Q, an unorthodox pick that he is apt to go towards in the past.
Myth,
But I won't do it.
you're in a desert of proper
We will use this
pronunciation.
power
You can't find an oasis of a correct one.
Correct word.
You are loving that.
I am. Then comedies and threes, and that's our third usage of the desert
yours.
thing. So we're done. That's my third. Yeah, you got all 3 strikes remaining. Umoja, the pick here for Neil Ma. So now 3 different games, 3 separate picks for Neil. Surprised that Umoja keeps falling down these drafts. I think just in general, right? I mean, of course, against Rongyu, I can't believe that guy keeps getting that pick. But any of these capable supports, I still think Umoja has the ability to take over games. 40% win rate generally surprises me. Right around a 90% pick ban rate, though, and I think that does make some sense to me. But further down the draft is the Umoja here for Neoma. Do you think Umoja fits with what else the Oni Warriors have already?
Yeah, I think Umoja is a very plug-and-play pick in that she's always going to be able to apply that
not be
healing. She's
caught
always going to be able to spawn
ill-prepared.
up those walls consistently. Looking at the other side, Amaterasu, CERN, and even Horus to a certain extent going to struggle dealing with that River's Rebuke. Horus, a little bit less so. We'll be able to dash out as long as he's got an ally or an allied minion nearby. Agni, though, interesting selection. A pick that is very strong right now, has great poke potential, phenomenal damage output, decent survivability if it weren't a Umoja on the other side. I'm surprised that he goes towards it up against this pick because of those walls.
Yeah, the walls will limit some of what Benny-Q can do over in the mid lane. Still thinking of a jungle pick, and talk about falling down a draft. A 93% pick ban rate for Gilgamesh, and the Oni Warriors are able to get Gilgamesh last. And so, a strong couple of picks at the end of the draft here. So between a Camazotz, Ama, CERN, and Horus Myth, a lot of physical damage there. How concerned are you about Benny Q's ability to solo deal all of this magical damage?
Because he is a consistent poke style of pick, Agni having 3 charges of the ultimate, I'm not overly concerned about it. You are lacking slightly in burst potential, his damage broken up into essentially 4 parts, the 3 bombs and the flame wave. But considering Cern's changing the season passive, Amaterasu's passive with the 3 auto attack strikes, I think there are some decent answers to physical defense that the Valkyries have available. And they've got great survivability as well. I think that the Oni Warriors might early itemize towards physical defense, but overall, Agni brings enough that you can't completely ignore the magical damage output.
Yeah, you get a couple items online, and I imagine Benny Q is going to be doing a lot of damage here in game number 3. The Oni Warriors have given themselves a great composition here, Miff, to maybe close out this set. What part of the game do you think this Oni Warriors draft wants to get active?
Well, it depends on which portion of the map you're playing around. If you're playing in the duo lane, you really want to get active early between this Yamoja and Medusa. A very aggressive selection. Gilgamesh in the jungle can get aggressive anywhere on the map, but largely probably won't be playing around the mid. The Morgan takes a little bit of time to scale up, needs some of that itemization. Then she starts to act as a solo agent or just a transformation CC god champion, if you would. So side lane emphasis for the Oni Warriors. Whereas the Valkyries, I think, a little bit more so want to play for that late-game team fight.
And so it'll be Gilgamesh versus Camazotz in the jungle here, Miff, and we've seen plenty of Gilg out of the jungle here, not only this week, but in weeks of past. I feel like Kama, we've seen a lot of solo lane picks from Camazotz, even some mid lane picks from Camazotz, which has been wild over in the SEC. What do you foresee this jungle matchup looking like in the early part of this game? Do you think Kirmi or Cuvo Fred has more of an ability to get things started early?
Pre-5, you're always going to favor the Gilgamesh just because dropkick is such a long form of CC even at the first rank. Applying that slow with the Sun Scimitar as well, just having a good deal of damage output, great gank potential. Camazotz, once he ticks over level 5, will have a lot more survivability, which will afford him the ability to dive aggressively and not have to concern himself so much with towers or anything of the like, can just kind of swoop through and get himself out of the sticky situations. So pre-5, I'm thinking Gilgamesh likely going to get involved a little bit more quickly. Afterward, I would argue Camazotz and Gilgamesh have got very similar power trajectories until the absolute latest portion, then Camazotz outscales.
Oni Warriors and the Valhalla Valkyries move on to game number 3. Winner take all. Who will win it? Game 3 will let us know.
Let's see which of these two teams is going to make it out with the dub today, going into a tied set for game number 3 with the Valks and the Warriors. It's J-Mac, it's Trelly, and Rosie here for our final game of the day here in day 2, week 2 of the SPL. And it's going to be Aquarius taking the Amaterasu over into the solo lane, probably main expectations there. But how do you feel about Kirmi on this Camazotz? This isn't a pick that we too often see with this player.
Yeah, my issue with Camazotz in the jungle specifically, in solo lane you have more tank stats to fall back on, where if you miss a few abilities, you know, you still have, you're there to be annoying and hit your poke, but in the jungle, you have to be hitting this Vampire Bats. It has to be landing consistently. That's your main form of damage, obviously. They're slow. Your Hydra's procs and stuff are there as well, but you want to make sure you're landing these abilities. So I don't have as much a problem with it. It's just so that you have to be playing it perfectly. And Kirmi, obviously, has played this pick before. Probably feels pretty confident on it, but the drop kick is much easier to hit, is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, drop kick, a fairly simple ability to get some big damage out there. Cubo will hit level 2 in that mid lane, so access to drop kick is now available if he decides to go with that instead of the more safe option, which would be that heroic advance, the heroic leap that he has. Instead, it's a blink in by Gamma. He has to get to quick beads out of boat, so the dual lane already starting off pretty strong here for the Valks, but Gamma, maybe he had a tower shot that he didn't want to there. He's down to half health now. Yeah,
there is a little bit of sustain on both sides here. It's going to take a little bit longer for Horus to get that heal. Obviously, level 2 doesn't really have it right now. But the Yamoja, Neilma, is going to be able to heal up just fine here. So despite a little bit of targeted aggression, I think it is just going to be more of a waiting game at the moment. I really like what Benny Q did here late in the draft, picking up this Agni. I think recognizing that Dardes was the Morgan, didn't want to give him a great transformation. And if you do transform into Agni, you don't get the full 3 bombs. You only get 1. So just making sure to say, hey, I recognize you picked the Morgan, but you're going to have to go with the Camazotz more often than not.
And this is kind of how this solo lane matchup goes. Sure, Bologna will more often than not win the initial boxing phase, but Aqua can always silence out that bludgeon, so don't expect too many of those to come out in this matchup between Aquarius and Nico over there on the solo lane. But back to that mid, I mean, it's one problem that the desk brought up at the very least here is that Agni into Yamoja is not going to be a very fun matchup for Benny Q. As soon as those Rivers Rebuke come up, Benny's got to be on the trigger with that dash to be able to get away from those walls.
Yeah, making sure you're not trapped is definitely going to be an issue. The Riptides could be pretty clutch as well. It really just depends on BennyQ's positioning. Is he aware of where Neil is at all times? Is he trying to there? But Wowie is going to dash in here. Bramble Blast off the mark, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any more targeted aggression in that duo lane. But the purple buff is spawning soon, J-Mac. Interested to see if Gamma and Wowie show some face at it.
For the very least, he'll sit up by the tier 1 tower. Wowie's got plenty of damage and plenty of clear ability to be able to take this one down. Does end up hitting the Bramble Blast on top of Neil. Neil's doing just fine. Vote goes in with some big damage up against Gamma. That puts the Horus down to half HP and maybe even deters Gamma from going over towards this purple. I say that, but it seems that they are unfazed by it one bit. Dardes could make a rotation over, is at that red buff, and maybe just that threat alone, that knowledge that we have no idea where the mid laner is from the Warriors, is enough to scare the Valkyries away from purple.
Yeah, Dardes did just take over to level 5. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how well Dardes does pilot this Morgan when there is a Horus in the game. Usually we see those transformations. It's usually something like the Camazotz, as I already mentioned, but there's lots of options here. You have the double winds of Samesh. A Petrify could be sort of useful, and then again, to the sky to get your team in and out of danger. Dardes, not one to just stick on one crutch transformation here, so we'll have to see what he does decide to do. As we look over towards Nika, who did not end up getting a relic. Once again, just holding off, seeing, hey, should I get the teleport? Should I get the beat? Should I get the blink? You have that option if you don't get it right away, so the solo lane matchup could get more interesting here in a second.
And let this be a reminder to all the players in my games, if you are not in the solo lane, probably pick up a relic right away. Only in solo can you really get away with not grabbing an immediate relic, whether you want to go blink or beads or teleport or what have you here. But if you're anywhere else, go ahead and pick that first relic up there, like the rest of the team has. 3 sets of beads and 2 blinks on the Valkyries. Meanwhile, only a couple of beads, a blink, and a shell out of the Oni Warriors here. Speaking of the Oni Warriors, even without a kill going their way, they've already been able to step up and pick about a 500 gold lead for themselves.
Cuvo did go on his quest, and he did end up getting in the mace tree, so that is going to be pretty solid. He will be able to build into that. Pretty much just found some gold on the ground, essentially. No matter what he wants to build in that, there should be some use he gets out of that extra 15 power. I'll be surprised if I don't see Cuvo at least build into it. Not going to sell it like we saw the other time, where I believe it was Kirmi who just sold away his item. It's going to be, you know, that's one of the better ones I would say that you can get. But Dardes, not up to go for the flat pen start, just wanting to prioritize Doom Orb, trying to move as quickly as possible across this map. I'm interested to see if he puts points after the 2 into the 3. We won't be able to see it just yet, but as the game goes on, if you do max that 3, you go a little bit faster in your invis as the Morgan. So we'll have to see what Dardes decides to do there.
Yeah, he's going to slap on his zoomies and run his way across the map here as quickly as he can. Gamma will steal a couple of offerings. He did this earlier, and this is actually a really cool piece of tech that I don't think a lot of people are realizing, is that he is getting that first offering and planting himself where the second one is going to spawn in and channeling that ultimate, so that way he can guaranteed get the 2 and still already have his escape path out there for the ult. Very nice little play there by Gamma.
Yeah, just it's pretty much a clock if you want to look at it in a circle. And whenever you see your first offering, the other one is usually mirrored on the opposite side. So as long as you recognize where the first one's going to spawn, you can just go to the other side and just say, hey, I'm going to go over here. So Gamma recognizing it, pretty close to filling up that obelisk, but there is some chance to steal it away. We'll have to see if the Oni Warriors try to answer back with some of those offerings. But still, back to the farm game we look. Let's take a look at the XP. Gamma has a 1-level lead, but besides that, pretty even across the board. Nika does just tick over to level 8, though, so a small lead in solo as well just for the time being.
Gamma not having ult means that a fight might not break out, at least for a little while here. Nika even rotating over towards this greater Scorpion, at least blocking off the path towards Kirmi. It's a 4 versus 3 group up by the Oni Warriors, but a bomb over the wall by Benny actually manages to steal away those mid-harpies. That's a little bit of extra XP to him. Cuba Fred goes in aggressive, beads out of Benny Q, and some bombs right after, but it's not going to be enough to save him out. It's Cuvo Fred coming up with the first blood for the Oni Warriors.
Aquarius did make the rotation over, but realized pretty quickly that his mid lane was just dead, and he's going to go back to farming that solo lane. Both blue buffs are about to be up, so if Bologna doesn't make it back in time, that could be bad, but it looks like Neil will steal some of these offerings away, so Gamma's work will be in vain. The offering will go the way, as Wowie found a solo kill?
Now Wowie, 1 versus 2 over here, now versus Cuvo Fred. There's not enough minions to help Wowie out. He'll go down. So that gives a second kill over to Cuvo, but Wowie finding a solo kill is probably the most surprising thing here, not because of any flack towards the player. It's just the last 2 games that we've watched this matchup, Voda's gotten the upper hand every single time in the early game.
Nope, you're roasting Wowie. I could tell it in your voice.
Yeah,
No,
wow. I need to step it up here, get a couple more kills. That way, you know, we don't have to get a no. But in all seriousness, I mean, Wowie's been down a level or more almost every single game, so him finding a big kill here has got to be a big moral boost for him.
Yeah, I think that might be just be overconfidence on Vote, assuming that because he's been ahead all set, it will continue to. But look at the build itemization. Crusher, just a much better power spike than Dev Gauntlets right now, especially only with 23 stacks and the death toll. On top of that, Stern is just going to have a way better 1v1, so I think Vote recognizes, hey, I am ahead as I have been all set, but your build just has a little bit more damage right now.
It's a level 7 matchup, so I'm trying to figure out, you know, where the big one was. A Bramble Blast into an ultimate. Nice little dash there by Wowie. That gets him around the backside. And you saw Vote got aggressive because, well, Cuvo Fred's coming up right behind. That should be a nice and easy pickup. It'll be an easy 2v1, but Vote underestimating the damage that Wowie is able to output here in the early stage on this Cerno. So got a nice little taste of it there in that 1v1 matchup.
Oh yeah, the 1v1 from CERN is going to be pretty powerful here. Again, if you're able to hit that Bramble Blast, the cripple into the root, it's going to do a whole ton of damage, and you can just line up your autos pretty effectively. Kirmi taking a little bit of damage here and might be getting aggressed upon. Looks like the Dark Element did not get blown up, luckily for Kirmi, so not a lot of damage coming out just yet. But I'm still looking at this 3v3 in the mid. If Neil is able to find a River's Rebuke onto BennyQ, it would be pretty dangerous. So it looks like it's just going to be mid camps once again as the Oracles are traded, but I think Wowie was able to get both.
Run, Wowie, run. You've got at least 2 to fight up against you. Good ultimate, but a Petrify is too much damage, and Gamma is too late on the ult to get back in. A dash for dash means that Vote will get the extra distance needed to get away from Gamma. Another 1-kill pick, and maybe a second one here as Dardes solos out BennyQ on the other side of the fight.
Yeah, unfortunate, but if you are able to get the full brunt of the Morgan's damage offline and then turn into a Camazotz, I don't think many mages are going to be able to win that fight, as I believe Aqua loses his blue buff, unfortunately, has no mana to his name at the moment, so that solo lane matchup going to be a little rough for quite a bit of time. A 1-level lead as well for Nika, so sitting pretty in this lane at the moment. Aquarius not doing too hot, but, you know, it's more so just the, oh, look at this. The Gold Fury's been started up.
Gold Fury down to half health. I don't think anybody on the Valkyries should be able to grab this one. Just ping-ponging it back and forth between a couple of the carries here. We're talking about Cuvo Fred, 2-0-1 on the Gilgamesh, and actually went completely against the grain to you once again.
He sold it!
He sold that tier 1 mace. It's going to be Tower Shield instead. So we'll make us eat both of our words. Neither of these Gilgamesh players want to hold on to their tier 1 items, man.
I mean, I guess they just want the gold. As Kirmi blinks in here, Cubo no mana, but I don't think Kirmi has the dive.
Kirmi? He's still going to go. BennyQ has shown up. River's Rebuke is not really going to zone much of the fight away. Instead, it's going to put Kirmi on the wrong end of the team fight. Stun just off the mark. Gamma is back, and a good knockup will mean that Vote will not get to close distance. Kirmi is going back in. He's got the Vampire Bats. That'll hit BennyQ. But the Flame Wave is good. He'll dash in aggressive, and Wowie will be the one to pick up the kill. But now that Nika was here, that bludgeon is doing so much damage, and Nika is putting in so much work in this team fight.
Dardes does not have ult available, and the rotation, as you said, was massive. Aqua's here as well, but no Frostbound Hammer finish, so Nika is going to get the best of these auto trades. This Bologna, 1v3 at the moment, no fear in Nika's eyes.
How much damage that bludgeon slam? He had to have swung on 3 different people on the initial spin. That is an immense amount of damage coming from this Bologna. Berserker Shield and Frostbound online for the solo laner of the Warriors, finding some big value in that last little fight.
Oh yeah, and again, Dardes didn't even have ult available. That was just a normal Morgan in that fight. It'd only get better for the Oni Warriors. They have a solid gold lead here as the Oni Fury. It's not the Oni Fury, the Pyromancer goes down. There's a Primal Fury that will be spawning a little bit later. That's not the objective we're looking at the moment. Gamma trying to clear away some mid waves as well, but just some great play by the Oni Warriors, making sure to have the rotation and the numbers in that mid lane fight.
BennyQ ganked in mid by Cuvo Fred. Has the dash for just a moment, but the Winds of Shamash have more than enough range to close out the distance. Cuvo Fred with a 3rd kill up in this game, and now a 4th death on the mid laner of the Valhalla Valkyries. That Fury's going to be down for a while, but the Warriors are going to be unrelenting throughout the jungle. Thought they maybe would have gone towards that obelisk, but it seems with Gamma nearby, they're not willing to step that far forward just yet.
Props to production to making sure to get all of Cuvo's pop-offs on the camera. Whenever he gets a kill, if you look over, he's getting very hyped in the player booth there. So making sure to not only hype up his team for these actions, but probably a little demoralizing to the Valhalla Valkyries looking over and seeing Cuvo get active. But Gamma is trying to get some relics down from Dardes. Beads is going to be used.
Kirmi misses the Vampire Bats. He's going to need all 3 swipes of this Bat Out of Hell, but a responding Bat Out of Hell from Dardes. Very fast transformation on this Morgan will get the mid laner of the Warriors out. Kirmi so close in finding that kill.
Yeah, unfortunate, but very, very clutch ultimate by Dardes, making sure to survive there. Did take over to level 13, but didn't have the Aegis yet. Could be going back to get it. And that would have saved him, of course, but now, just having used the ult, I think you're pretty happy there. But at least a small win for the Valks. You get the Morgan ult, you get the Morgan beads. Could look for a second gank here if you are Gamma. Doesn't have the blink available anymore, but if you're trying to find some sort of stun, trying to make Dardes' life a little bit harder here. 3 kills only for the Valhalla Valkyries, but again, Wowie was able to find that solo kill, so sitting a little bit prouder in this lane right now. Not under his tower, as we've seen.
It is always nice to not have to be shackled to your tier 1 tower in that duo lane for the majority of another game. Jump in by Cuvo, dash out by Gamma, and a drop kick missed by Cuvo Fred. Not finding any of the damage or CC there. A wraparound by the Valkyries, but Kirmi only level 11 versus this level 13 Gilgamesh. Probably not going to be outputting the most damage without some help. They're going to need Benny Q and even Aqua maybe to try and close one of these ones out. Neilmod does get hit by a bomb. Cuvo in danger. The ultimate from the horse does land down, but a River's Rebuke will zone out the team fight and give Cuvo just enough of an avenue to find his way out. Petrify around the wall. Wowie can't close in. A stun from Neil just off the mark, and a Riptide will make sure that the Warriors can get out, but how far can they go? The answer is the full distance. Tier 2 tower will provide that safety net for the Warriors.
Unfortunate once again, the Valks not able to finish a single one of those kills. A lot of low health targets, but just nothing able to be finished here. As we see Dardes pushing very far up, actually wrapping around here, does miss the stun.
The stun gets the transformation. It's into a Bologna. Eagles rally on top of Benny and making a second. Eagles rally. The double bludgeon slams through, but Dardes does go down. Aquarius credit to the kill, and Nika may have overstepped as well. He should be going down to Kirmi and Aqua. Big bludgeon, no. Kirmi goes so low, but the leap is there just in the nick of time. Kirmi gets the kill on Nika.
I really thought he was going to fall there as Cuvo is trying to take this speed buff. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to get out here. The chase ensues. He doesn't have blink if they're able to catch up here with the Amma movement speed, but he's so fast, I think he's out.
He'll be able to get away here. No further chase from Aqua and Gamma. I mean, we're having an arena fight here under the tier 1 tower between these teams. I mean, Dardes starts that fight by wrapping all the way around this tier 1 tower in towards the jungle to start up a fight. And then it ends all the way over by a speed buff there. I thought Nika was going to get that kill on Kirmi, but just in time, that leap comes back up. Kirmi able to live through that, and the Valhalla Valkyries able to punish the Warriors. But if we're still looking at the lead here, it's over 4,000 up for the Oni Warriors in the gold department. XP, though, a little bit different of a story. Only about 1,000 here for the Chaos side team.
Look at that player damage, man. Nika has twice anyone in the whole games. Closest to him is Dardes. But just insane amount of damage output from this Bologna right now. I mean, it's just so much auto attack, as we just saw, pretty close to getting that kill on Akirmi as well. As the Primal Fury is up, we are seeing a grouping. Looks like pretty much 5v5 except for Wowie, who's in base right now, but I really doubt the Valks are going to pull without their ADC in mind. Whereas Dardes is just clearing waves at the tier 2 tower, no fear.
Not a care in the world is this Morrigan here. Dardes level 15, second highest level in the game, tied up with his solo laner. Only Vote outpacing them right now. Double crit right off the bat here with his Atalanta's Bow Wind Demon combo. So Vote's going to have some very early objective shred with that crit. And a lot of attack speed to his name. Cuvo Fred will have to leap out as the red buff was the eye target, but there's nothing there to be had for the Warriors to steal away. And now it's the Valkyries starting to press up over on this left side. Fury was pulled, but quickly leashed back.
Yeah, still just a little bit of a slap fight in the mid lane right now. I'm surprised the Warriors are looking more towards the right side of the map instead of the left. Again, the Primal Fury is up. It seems like Dardes is just prioritizing the farm right now. But still, that Pyromancer could be a nice consolation prize to whichever team decides not to go for this gold. That's why I'm confused why it's the Oni Warriors who are putting more stock on that right side of the map, because they should be pushing on the gas a little bit here. They're ahead.
3 of the Valks standing on a ward that they don't even realize there. The Warriors knew that that gank was coming the entire time. But there are 4 of the Valkyries here in the mid lane, and now 4 meeting up with the 5th to get started up towards this Primal Fury. But everybody on the map, save for Dardes, at least is within a quick walk of getting to that objective. It doesn't seem the Valkyries are willing to pull this one yet, though. They are waiting. They are really trying to hunt for any single pick that they can find.
Yeah, one kill before the gold would make all the difference right now, but the Valks seem to be just sort of a little scared, but also recognize that they are behind right now. I mean, you have to worry about the invis from Dardes. You never really know where Nika's going to appear from. He has that horrific emblem, so if you're caught out, you're going to have to run very far, and here we are.
Eagles rally by Nika, finds 3, but an ult by Gamma will get those same 3 immediately on out of the fight. But that's one massive team fight ultimate down now on the side of the Warriors, but there's still plenty to go. 4 ults up on both teams. Benny Q expended a couple of bombs to poke out in that fight, but he'll have a couple more once the fight kicks back off.
Yeah, whenever we see this little Gold Fury downs, I immediately look over towards Dardes, who's just pushing waves, making sure to keep a lead over Benny Q. Only 2 levels right now, but every time the gold's pulled, that's where he's at.
Well, Fury, Primal, I should say here, pulled by the Warriors. Aqua is in range to slow this one down. Neilma's tanking up and eating a lot of damage. River's Rebuke will come out right away, and Aqua will take down Neilma. Meanwhile, backline, Q of Fred on top of Benny Q, who's not gone down just yet. Q of Fred leaps in, but it's a 1-for-1 trade. Triple bludgeon out of Dardes. He is chopping away at Wowie as Nika joins the fight. It's Vote who gets the kill on the Hunter.
Double Bologna still trying to chase as Dardes transforms back, but still, the Primal Fury. This is the gift on the map that they are trying to unwrap here. No one around. It is still a 3v3. The fight went generally even, but right now you're worried about the damage numbers that, number one, the Primal Fury is able to do as we look at Vode's HP, but more so what the tanks of the Valhalla Valkyries is going to do. So neither team is going to get this Primal Fury. The gold still heavily in favor of the Oni Warriors, but a decent fight from the Valks.
They're able to fight back despite that deficit there that the Valkyries are in. And Nika has just become a menace across this map here. Not just the fact that he himself has become a problem for the Valkyries to deal with. It's his clone Dardes, who's been using this Eagles rally consistently throughout these team fights to give them an extra little bit of a boost here.
And he did max the 3.
Yeah, he did. Didn't even bother with getting that big extra stun damage on the 1. Just wanted that extra movement speed, and he'll use it to close that gap on Aquarius. Big stun, Dark Omen after Aquarius. Barely able to find that dash out. Eagles rally by Nika was used, but it doesn't end up getting the stun. Primal Fury up once again. Gamma is here, but it's a lone horse. He'll blink into the back line only against Neil Ma, but he's left his mid laner all by himself. So the Oni Warriors don't necessarily care about the kill. They want the objective, and they'll grab it.
Yeah, it looks like the Oni Warriors will get the Primal Fury. As Kirmi looking at Cuvo in the mid lane right now, trying to find some form of pick. Obviously, you lose the big objective. Pyromancer was available that whole time, but Cuvo seemed to be on zone duty. But now Kirmi might get wrapped around.
Kirmi kicked against the wall, stunned by Dardes, and beaten across the head by Cuvo Fred. Oni Warriors now with 10 kills up, 20 minutes in. The Valkyries will try and get proactive on the map by grabbing a Pyromancer, but that might be all that they can get for this fight.
Yeah, not a bad consolation prize at the moment, but Dardes is still chasing right now. I will say, wow, he shredded that very quickly, so the build is pretty much online, but look at this. The Oni Warriors are taking a shot at Fire Giant right now.
Fire started. Votus here does have double crit and a lot of attack speed to his name now with that Silver Branch bow. Fire Giant was started, but quickly leashed back as soon as Aqua walked forward. But now with the River's Rebuke, Aquarius has to use that ultimate to find his way out. Won't find the stun on anybody, but Dardes will find one on top of Gamma. Meanwhile, it's Wowie versus Nika, and now Cubo Fred under the tier 2 tower, and Wowie has absolutely nowhere to go. Petrify good up against Aquarius, and Cubo Fred finds the pick on Gamma. Oni Warriors pick up 2 more kills on the Valks.
All the while, Benny Q was split pushing in left, but really gets nothing for it. Maybe 2 waves, but that's not enough to catch you up to Dardes right now. I'm surprised. The Oni Warriors have the 5v3 lead right now, but I guess they just used too many ultimates to safely pull this Fire Giant. A little bit too worried about not only bad out of Hellsteel potential, but Benny Q's damage numbers. So just going to say, hey, we're going to play this one a little bit safer, wait for the ultimate abilities to come back up. But again, look at the damage numbers. Still, Nika at the top. Twice anyone in the games besides Dardes, who is doing pretty big numbers as well.
13K on this Morgan, and some of this can maybe be attested to the relics. We'll talk about this after this Fire Giant goes down, or at least maybe after a kill goes the way of Aquarius. He'll be stunned out. And a quick dash away by the Amaterasu. The Warriors haven't given up on the Fire Giant. Kirmi has instead gone back in to fight Neil Ma. But as Kirmi stepped too far forward, a bat out of hell is required for the jungler to find their way out of this fight. But Gamma and Aquarius still rather healthy here on these frontliners. Will at least deter the Warriors from continuing the objective.
Seemed like Cuvo got pretty poked out by Benny Q as well. His Dardes Invis here trying to find the mid laner. Everyone's taking a lot of poke at the moment. They have a little bit of healing on the side of the Valks, but Yamoja is going to be the real healer on the map at the moment. So making sure Neil is going to heal the whole squad of the Oni Warriors, as most of them is retreat here. Not trying to go for that yet. It's so annoying, man. We were talking
So
about the Frostbound,
toxic.
but just stopping back with the Scourge too? Come on, Nika.
He'll stop that one. Going back to the relics here, take a look at what Gamma's picked up. Blink to start out, very expected. And then you go with a Curse Stonk here. Also going in Shimoja, you're going to want some anti-heal. The problem that we're finding here, and something that was talked about on the desk, was dealing with these Yamoja walls. It's always mentioned Phantom Shell is a great way to get out of there. And look how many people can't get out of there. Gamma has to use ultimate or hope somebody's outside the wall. Kirmi can get out, but he's got to use ultimate. Everybody else is going to be stuck inside. They just have no way on the Valks to deal with this Yamoja and no way to deal with Nika and Cuvo, Fred. Benny Q spared for only a moment. Drop kick right into the arms of Dardes. It's another kill up for the Oni Warriors. Wow, he's stuck inside the walls. Will go down. Aquarius tries to find a big ultimate. Does manage to get 3, but it's not going to help Gamma. He goes down to Cuvo. One will chase out the other. And Kirmi surrounded by 4 members. The drop kick immuned out by Bat Out of Hell, and only 2 Valks live.
You can't deal with 1 Bologna, and you definitely cannot deal with 2 right now. The Oni Warriors looking insane right now with this combination. Obviously, everyone is doing tons of damage, but once we see this transformation from Dardes, I just know the fight is over every time. This time around, the Fire Giant will go down. And finally, we're seeing one of these massive objectives go down as we see the Oni Furies almost up as well, but not going to be up in time for the Valks to try to get some consolation prize. So looks like the Oni Warriors in the driver's seat as Dardes is still pushing this wave here. He wants this tier 2 tower, but it looks like he will back up just very close to taking over to level 20 there.
Will be Fire Giant now for the Oni Warriors. 23.5 minutes in. They're able to drop that objective. And looking down the way here as far as levels are concerned, I mean, 20s for a few of the big players on the Warriors. Nika just a little shy of hitting that mark. Meanwhile, it's 1 to 2 levels down still across the board on the other side here. The Valkyries aren't able to hit that same level of XP to keep themselves in this fight. Some of them behind on some of their build paths over here. When it comes to the siege defense now for the Valkyries, because they're going to have to defend most likely up against these Phoenixes, where do they find that way back into the fight?
I mean, you have to try to pick Dardes before he transforms. He's at his squishiest when he is the Morgan. When he turns into this Bologna pick, it's very difficult to try and kill him, as we've seen. So I have to imagine you're looking to pick Dardes before that ult gets off, try to CC chain him. But right now, both relics are available. I mean, maybe look at Cuvo because the beads are down for 60 seconds. Besides that, no real avenues to try to win a fight right now if it is even.
Benny Q, with those long-range bombs, has been able to find some good damage in this game. Certainly a much stronger performance out of him as far as damage output than in game number 2. But he has been the eye of target here as far as the Warriors are concerned. 7 deaths now on the mid laner of the Valkyries. And a tier 1 and tier 2 gone instantly. A very late response out of the Valkyries to get to this Phoenix. It only loses about 1/3 of its health. But this one could go down very quickly. Dardes does have that Polynomicon online.
Yeah, the Polynomicon Morgan combo, pretty solid for tower damage, but it looks like they recognize that there is still 2 tier 2s available, and Cubo Fred has not joined the fight just yet. So not going to go underneath the Phoenix, just going to get as much gold as they possibly can off the map before they begin these Phoenix sieges. But as you mentioned, Benny, 1 and 7 right now, still been able to find some damage numbers, but clearly a target for the Oni Warriors, wanting to make sure this Agni, this control style mage, is not able to get off the full brunt of his kit. We're seeing those Oni minions now starting to push in.
Gonna be the ones in mid lane to start out here alongside Cuvo Fred. The Valkyries have rotated 3 over towards this mid lane, and they've left Kirmi by himself. He's got to use Bat Out of Hell. Gamma can't even get out of the rivers. They don't even need to crash through. That one is already as good as dead. Gamma goes down. Benny falls once more to Nika. Cuvo Fred is just walking as far back as he can to wait for the setup. Drop kick not necessary because it's Nika with the double, Neil with 1 more, and the Oni Warriors, even after going down game 1, are undeterred by the Valkyries. They will close out this set with a 2-1 win.
Yeah, we saw a pretty dominant performance from the Valks in game 1. Besides that, the Oni Warriors very much dominating this matchup here. I mean, everyone was able to find success, but my eyes looked towards Tardez and Nika, both of these Bolognas that we saw running through those fights with Cuvo in the back. I mean, just so much incredible dive there for the Oni Warriors.
Well, so far, the Valkyrie season starting off similar to how the Scarabs had in Phase 3. You get a win in game number 1, but then you can't close out that set quite yet in games 2 or 3 here. Valkyrie's a strong performance game number 1. They still have a little bit more to go to stand up to some of these SPL teams, but the Oni Warriors getting a win here has got to be a big boon for them.
Yeah, I would say so. The Oni Warriors feeling good again. After taking down the Leviathans and then losing again, we're like, where does this team stand? But making sure you're able to beat the Valks, I bet they're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, nice win here for the Oni Warriors. We'll take it to a quick break, then we'll come back for the desk to close us out for the day.
Yeah, girl, you looking better than the photos. Need more of your time, so I'm watching you in slow-mo. Yeah, busy schedule, but it doesn't really matter when it comes to you. Yeah, I can wait till we're together, I can never get enough of you. Yeah, she said, what you want from me? Baby, what you want from me? Yeah, yeah, nothing but your company. Sitting on the top with me. Yeah, yeah, oh. Girl, I can give you the time of your life right now, right now. Give you the moment you never could have right now, right now. Let me in, let me in, let me in your world. Yeah, let me in, let me in, let me in your life. Yeah. Yeah. She got that vibe, she got that go-go. Ooh. She mesmerized with her eyes when she's so close. Yeah. You gon' see when you get to know me. I'll be right beside you when you're lonely. How you be swinging with that body, put it on me. Woo. Won't you be the body in my story? She said, what you want from me? Baby, what you want from me? Yeah, yeah. Nothing but your company. Sitting on the top with me. Yeah, yeah. She said, what you want from me? Baby, what you want from me? Yeah, yeah. Nothing but your company. Sitting on the top with me. Yeah, yeah. Oh, girl, I can give you the time of your life right now, right now. Give you the moment you never could have right now, right now. Let me in, let me in, let me in your world. Yeah, let me in, let me in, let me in your life. Yeah. Yeah. Girl, I can give you the time of your life right now, right now. Give you the moment you never could have right now, right now. Let me in, let me in, let me in your world. Yeah, let me in, let me in, let me in your life. Yeah.
Sending shivers down, all down my spine. My blood is pumping hard.
Oni Warriors turn this set around something fierce after a Game 1 loss. Games 2 and 3 go the way of the Oni Warriors, back to their winning ways after dropping a set to the Jade Dragons earlier on this weekend. And it is a convincing win at that. in games 2 and 3 after they turn things around. Valhalla Valkyries, yet again, the story continues for the Valk squad where they're able to take some games. In the games where they win, they look very clean, and then pushed by the wayside a bit in a couple of the games in their last couple sets. And so this is a good look for the Oni Warriors, Mifflin. Again, if we're giving the Valks some breathing room to grow into the SPL, there's still some good to hang their hat on here in this set. But the Oni Warriors we expected to see is the Oni Warriors we saw in the last couple games.
Yeah, Game 3 starts off very even, I would argue. It was really around that 15-minute mark where I think things really started to lean in favor of the Oni Warriors. Generally, I think Cubo Fred has been having just a phenomenal year so far, legitimately. Last year, maybe not the best performance from him individually, but since then has really started to step up for his team. The Hun Bots game and now this Gilgamesh game as well. Really just getting active on the map early on and continually staying involved, being that initiator, being that damage output that his team needs. And, well, the Oni Warriors holistically were starting to look a lot better after Game 1. Game 3, though, I think not much that you can complain about. They lined up against a composition that had pretty strong early game, were able to hold their own, and then by the time they got to the late game, well, the Oni Warriors made it look easy.
If you're solo laner, Nika has a great pair of games at the end here.
That's right.
11-1 and 15 in games 2 and 3.
God, I love that.
And then 2-1 and 4 in game 1. So it's not like you're
That's
losing
not
any
even
points
bad.
there. No, it's not
Okay.
bad at all. You get to combine
Just an extra game of stats for me.
13-2 and 19 from your solo laner this week here, Miff. So not too shabby. Nika puts together a great couple of games down the stretch here. Really loved the more standard style of solo lane picks in the last couple of sets. Played Klina up against the Leviathans, but the Warriors and then Serb kind of sandwiched in there have really looked good for Nika.
Yeah, I'm hoping he gets back towards the Bastets and the Klinas. Like, I like when he's on Assassins because the KDs just look real nice there. But, if he wants to go for
It doesn't look
team
nice
wins,
here?
Well, it looks nice, but this could be like a 15-0 because I know what Nika's capable of, all right? But if he's prioritizing winning actual SPL matches instead of winning the fantasy draft, I mean, I guess I understand.
Yeah, and Hindu, of course, has Cuvo Fred, so Hindu happy with the way Cuvo set went here as well. Yeah, 26,000 damage for Nika.
God, he's so good.
Yeah, if you got damage points, Miff, you'd also be on
Wait, we
easy
don't?
street. I don't think you get points for just damage done.
Oh, I'll see if I can get that changed.
I don't think that's how it works. I don't think you can just change the rules halfway through, Miff. 26,000 for Nika, as well as mitigating 37,000 damage. So about as peak of a solo lane performance as you can get. And I'll talk to Nika about it in a second. Spoiler, we have post-game interview with Nika. Do you feel like Cuvo Fred is playing some of his best Smite right now, though, in the last couple of games, at least from what we've seen from him?
When the Oni Warriors are winning, Cuvo Fred is a keystone of that, an arcstone of. He is a linchpin for this team. But also when they're losing, generally Cuvo Fred's losing with them. All right, so
That's how it works.
he looks good, and when he looks good, they win. But I drafted Nika because he looks good all the time, even when they lose.
I was about to say, a guy who looks good all the time. Nika standing by with me for the post-game interview. After a Game 1 stumble, and then Games 2 and 3 bounce back, Nika, you were pivotal, of course, in the turnaround here in this set. Do you feel pressure being Mifflin's solo laner on his fantasy team? Do you feel like you have to carry a little extra
Third
weight?
time he's been asked that.
No,
Has he been asked that a lot?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't here
Well,
last week, so I missed the interviews.
I jokingly said yes in the
Got
Gorilla
it.
interview, but no, I mean I'm
I see.
I'm always like super confident in my own individual performance. So I mean,
Good.
he's lucky to pick me. You know?
Right, you're trying to win for the Oni Warriors. We don't care.
Yeah, of
What
course, that's
what's
all
your
that
team
matters.
name, If? I don't know if he has.
Do we have names?
You should
You
come up
should.
with one. All right, so I won't ask you that ever again because now it's the third time you've been asked that. Unbeknownst to me. Game number 1, Valkyries win this one. Do you have anything that you specifically take away that went wrong for you guys in Game 1 that you adjusted
Yeah,
in 2 and
game
3?
1 is one we will definitely be watching back. Like they're the type of losses we want to eliminate. Like they're really frustrating losses because it's just like consistent issues that we carry over from
Right.
like previous games. So I think like back to the drawing board for that game, but I'm really happy with how we bounced back. Game 2 and 3 are clean.
Yeah, as you should be. 11-1 and 15, as I mentioned to Miff for you in games 2 and 3, and they were on more like traditional solo lane style picks, the Warriors, and then a Cerberus in there. Haven't played the Assassin tree since your setup against the Leviathans. Do you just prefer those styles of picks over, I guess, depending on whether Klina and Bastet are picked or banned out?
Well,
You just
yeah.
like those picks?
Yeah, the assassins are usually banned out now, so it's like not reliable to like
Right.
lean back on those all the time. I mean, I'm just comfortable playing anything, honestly. Like,
Right.
whatever I think is the best in this open, I'll just pick it. Whatever's needed for
Sure.
the comp as well.
Well, you look great for the Oni Warriors as well as Mifflin's team, I suppose.
Thank you.
Nika, congrats on the win.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Miff, all right. So your solo laner doesn't care that he's playing for your team. We've already
No, he
established
does.
that.
He does.
No, he
cares.
does care. All right. He did
Yeah.
say that's not true.
Of course.
I have, I have to joke with him a little bit about it. But now that we've established we've asked him that question like 16 times, I guess I can't do it anymore. That's my fault for missing the first round of interviews.
Should have
Miff.
been paying
That's,
attention.
I know, it's totally on me. Kivo Fred, of course, steps up for this team. I think the Oni Warriors. We talked to El Chuckles on the way back here. After the way Game 1 went,
Just happy to get a dub.
yeah, this won't be a direct quote. Just he said, after the way Game 1 happened, I'm just happy that we end up walking away with a win here. And so that shows you. The Valkyries will show up, make you sweat a little bit, but the Oni Warriors able to grab themselves a win anyway. First couple of days of this week of the SPL are done. Camelot Kings, in our first set of the weekend, go 3 games against the Scarabs to grab the win. And the Oni Warriors in the first of 2 sets where we saw them fell to the Jade Dragons, but they were able to bounce back here up against the Valhalla Valkyries. The Atlantis Leviathan started off our day today with a 2-0 win over the Tartarus Titans. And I think that one surprised me, Miff. Again, not in the result necessarily, not in the fact that the Leviathans won, but I think in the manner that set went. The Leviathans just seemingly have the Titans figured out.
Yeah, I was really. I mean, the Titans had some experience, right? It's a
Right.
World Championship Finals rematch. Similarly, I believe it was a 3-0 there as well. Now 2-0. So in the last 5 games, the Atlantis Leviathans have lined it up against the Tartarus Titans. I'm just saying, one of them's got a 100% win rate.
Miff, you DM'd. I'll let us get to this before we close
Go
the day.
on.
We have 3 more SPL sets. Reminder: this is everyone's alarm. Set your alarm. 11 a.m. tomorrow. The SPL will start Olympus Bolts versus the Leviathans. You definitely do not want to miss that one. So make sure you wake up early with us. Get here at 11 a.m. Eastern time for Bolts versus Leviathans. Titans versus Valkyries will sandwich there in the middle. And then Jade Dragons versus the Kings to end off the day. So a triple header of SPL tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time right here. Twitch.tv/SmiteGame. Miff, you did message me while just through our laptops, high-powered Alienware laptops, able to send messages to one another through Discord.
And I can't disprove this because they're not looking at our laptops.
All right, you did send me a message with your official Smite fantasy team name. If
Yeah,
you
please announce it.
No, I don't want to do it. It's your fantasy team name.
Well, I feel like you've got a certain gravitas as a chair one, a desk host as well.
Okay.
I feel like it just
Yeah,
sounds better coming from you.
I'll do it, and then I'll end the show. We'll end the show
Okay,
on
please.
Mifflin's fantasy team name. And this is from Mifflin's message himself. Nika's Little Poggies is Mifflin's fantasy team name, and Nika put together an incredible performance for Mifflin's fantasy team here today. It was an incredible day of the SPL. Cannot wait to see you guys hanging out with us tomorrow. Remember, 11 a.m. Eastern time, the SPL kicks off. Had a whole lot of fun with you today. Can't wait to see you here tomorrow. On behalf of myself, Mifflin, all the other casters, everyone back in production, thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Little pod.